Can anyone hear anything?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Den at RCHT 2020. A slightly different format this year. You'll be having presenting from myself, Karen Murrish, the fundraising manager for RCHT Charity, and you'll also be seeing Beverly Wills, QI manager.
Hello, everybody. Looking forward to a fun-filled afternoon. I hope you enjoy it.
So a big thanks, first of all, before we kick things off, to our technical support from Pete Young and Hannah Webb. There's a huge amount of work behind the scenes to put today's event on virtually, so thank you so much to them for their support. It's a joint project, the Den at RCHT, between the RCHT Charity and the Quality Improvement team. We have many applications and they were shortlisted by a panel, and today you're going to see 3 pitches within 4 groups, so 12 shortlisted bids altogether. There are 4 categories. You've got brilliant care, brilliant people, brilliant improvement, and this year, the COVID-19 challenge. So in each group, there's £10,000 up for offer. The first 3 groups being funded by the RCHT Charity General Fund, and the last group being funded from NHS Charities Together, so funding we've received from their national COVID-19 appeal. So thank you so much to that support from the national charity. Of course, all of this is made possible from the support of our local community, so whether it's grateful patients, families, friends, individuals or corporates in our local community. Their support, your support, makes this possible. And aside from this wonderful event and the amazing talent that you're going to see this afternoon, our goal is to make sure that brilliant care can happen. Our charity exists to support that brilliant care. We want to add the extra, enhance environments and take our facilities to the next level. And your support makes this happen, so thank you for that. And thank you on behalf of all our patients and staff that benefit. So, just as the Den on TV, we have our wonderful panellists, our dragons, with us this afternoon. And just to introduce them to you, our head dragon, head panel member is Adam Wilden. Our Deputy Director of Finance here at RCHT. We also have our guest panel member, Amanda Stratford, who is the Chief Executive Officer for Health Watch Cornwall. So we're delighted to have Amanda with us this afternoon. And for each of the group, we'll have a different member of our executive team. So for this first group, which is Brilliant Care, we're joined by Kim O'Keefe, who's our Chief Nurse at RCHT and also CFT. So thank you, Kim, for your time as well. We'll also be joined by 3 other executive members for the following groups. So we're nearly ready to join our first bid. Our first picture. We really want to say thank you to everybody who's applied, everybody who's taken the time to apply. We know it takes a huge amount of effort alongside their working days to put together their pitches, to make the applications. And this, for many people, takes them way outside of their comfort zone, and we really acknowledge that. So I'm hoping that we're ready for our first bid. No, we're waiting for our first bid to join us, so we're hoping that they'll be with us very shortly. Our first bid that we're going to be receiving today is from the ED department, and we're going to be seeing Thomas Gelliot. They've applied for funding for a simulation mannequin. And then also in that group, we're going to be finding a representative from Clinical Imaging, Glenda Shaw, who's going to be pitching for some illuminated wall and ceiling panels. And then lastly, in that first group, we're looking forward to seeing Shannon Best, also from Clinical Imaging, who's pitching for £10,000 towards cystic fibrosis care. So we're really looking forward to seeing which of those bids will be the successful one and that will walk away with the money today. So at the end of each group, our dragons will have some time to discuss off-air so that we can make sure that they can discuss which ones they decide are the best options, and then they'll come back on air again and let us know their decision and announce the winners of the pitch. Are we ready for our first bid?
Karen?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi Karen, it's Adam. Are we going to have a sweepstake on how many times you have to say you're on mute?
Oh. Go, yeah, do that. I was thinking I was on mute. Yeah, and how many times do you have to say, can you see me? Okay, we are now ready. We were building suspense, merely building the suspense. So we're ready now for our first bid, which is, again, just to remind you, it's from the ED department, and we're going to be hearing from Thomas Gelliott, and he is pitching for £3,742 for a simulation mannequin. I think we are now ready. Here's Thomas. Welcome, Thomas.
Hi. Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Okay, take it away.
Do I share my screen for the slides, or have you got them? Thank you very much. So, my name's Tom Gelliott. I'm one of the specialist trainees in emergency medicine at RCHT. Next slide, please. And I'm bidding for a pledge of just short of £4,000 for a subclavian trauma line mannequin that you can see on the screen there. Next slide, please. So, major trauma
Sorry, Elliot,
is...
to stop you. We can't see your slides.
Oh, I can see them on the bottom left.
Can you? I think they're just... Is it just me? Sorry.
I can see a small version of them, Kim.
Yeah, we've got a tiny version now. Sorry to interrupt you. That's all right. Carry on. Carry on. We'll work with what you've got.
I'm not controlling that. I can share my screen if it's easier, but then you can't see me.
No, we want to see you, Thomas.
So as I was saying, major trauma. Major trauma is non-discriminatory, so it can affect anyone at any age, at any time in their life, and that's quite rare for any medical condition we face. It's a leading cause of death in the under 40s in the UK, and there's over 20,000 cases a year, of which nearly 5,500 deaths. Next slide, please. So the major preventable cause of death in major trauma is bleeding, and there's many ways that medical professionals try and reduce that death rate. Part of it is through giving patients blood resuscitation, and the other part is surgery to try and stop the bleeding. One of the ways that we can give blood to people is we need to get intravenous access to be able to give them blood products, and trauma lines are a way that with big access, that we can give vast quantities of fluid to be able to resuscitate these people. Next slide, please. Last year, myself and a couple of colleagues, we realised that at RCHT we weren't using subclavian trauma line access. So I surveyed all of the major trauma centres in the UK, approximately 20, asking what is the best access to use in major trauma. And as you can see in the pie chart, about 50% of these major trauma centres said that this was what we should be doing, a subclavian trauma line. So we asked ourselves, why weren't we doing it down here in Cornwall? So I sent a questionnaire out to all the anaesthetic and emergency medicine trainees, and I got over 70 responses. And as you can see, in these two categories, approximately 50% had never been trained to put in a subclavian trauma line. And about 25% of people had put them in without any training at all. So we identified a void in what we're doing down here in Cornwall. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the trauma line. At the bottom is the needle that we pierce the skin with. Going up one is the dilator we use to make the space for the line, which is in the middle. And I've just put a picture of a matchstick and a biro pen to compare with. So these lines are about the size of a biro pen. So you kind of want to get them in the right place first time. Next slide, please. In terms of the right place, the subclavian line is just on the chest underneath the collarbone. And as you can see, there's some things that we don't want to hit nearby. So if you can click forward, the subclavian artery is something that we don't want to put the line into. And if you click again, the lung sits just behind it as well. Also another place that we don't want to hit with this large line. Next slide, please. This picture's not come out great, but you can see on the left-hand side is a subclavian line going just above the heart. But you can see that they've caused a pneumothorax, which is a common complication with these lines, which is air trapped, puncturing the lung, which is air trapped in the chest wall. Next slide, please. So, what do we hope to do? We hope to provide a safe learning environment, incorporating lots of different teams. So, our major trauma consultants, the simulation suite, intensive care, anaesthetics and emergency medicine, all these people have the skills to do these lines, but it's making them more routine in practice, having the confidence to do them safely and effectively when we need to put them in. Next slide, please. So going forwards, with a successful pledge, the aim would be to buy this mannequin. We would then roll out a training program with the simulation suite and the specialties I just described. And then in time, I'd look to monitor the effectiveness of this with a re-audit of the trainees in the Southwest region. And my hope is that with a successful pledge of just under £4,000, we'd be able to provide brilliant care here at RCHT by being able to safely insert subclavian trauma lines effectively to be able to resuscitate people that sustain major trauma. And I do hope that there is no patient involvement in this, but unfortunately the statistics bears out that there will be people that do need subclavian trauma lines, and I feel that we need to be trained to be able to do this effectively. Thank you very much for listening.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Thomas. Excellent presentation. I'm just going to pass on to the other dragons to see if they've got any questions for you. Amanda, do you have any questions for Thomas?
Can I ask what's probably a really obvious question, Thomas? I'm not medical, I'm not clinical. So what difference is it going to make to patients?
Sorry, can you say again?
What difference is it going to make to patients?
So when a patient sustains a major trauma that needs resuscitation, we need to be able to instantly give them resuscitation with blood products. To be able to do that effectively, the bigger access we have, the quicker we can give them resuscitation. So the ways that you often see in hospital of people is having a little peripheral cannula put in, but the flow rates through those are really limited. Whereas these trauma lines are designed to be a lot fatter and thicker so that we can get much more flow rates through them to be able to resuscitate people effectively.
So ultimately, for the layperson, it improves survival rates?
So a combination. So yes, if we need to be able to resuscitate people to keep them alive to get them to theatre and for surgery. If we're unable to do that and they are bleeding to death, then yes, they will fundamentally die.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Kim, do you have any questions for Thomas? You're on mute, Kim.
I just lost the first sweepstake, didn't I, being on mute?
Yeah.
Thomas, thank you very much. That was really informative. Can I ask, if you were successful today in getting the mannequin, do you have any other facilities or equipment that you would need, or are you confident that you have the space to be able to do this really valuable sim training?
So with discussion of the sim suite prior to this, we have the areas ready to roll out, COVID precautions permitting, obviously. And I know with the new Resus build, and I know they've got some exciting plans going forward with simulation in the new space that we have there. So this will be a really exciting improvement for that going forward.
Great. Yeah. Thank you very much. It was so informative. I had a whole host of things, but you've answered them, so thank you.
Excellent. Just a couple of questions for me, if that's okay. So the first one was, how often do you think you're going to use the mannequin?
Really good question. I think the hope is obviously that we've got, based on the survey that we've done, there's loads of current trainees that aren't trained. So I think it will be something that will have really high uptake initially to upskill everyone that we currently have in the trust. And then I suspect it will be part of a rolling rota of when registrars rotate through the region. So generally speaking, I guess every August it will be on an induction that we know that all registrars of emergency medicine and anaesthetics will be able to place this line.
And then the next one was around, so you're asking for just under £3,800. Can the mannequin be used for anything else, or can we do anything, can we buy anything alongside the mannequin to use more of the £10,000 that's available for the bid?
So this particular mannequin is set up for all vascular anatomy in the chest and head and neck, so it can be used for ultrasound guided central lines. But having a chat to the ITU guys, these lines we do under ultrasound in a much more controlled environment in anaesthetics and intensive care, that they don't feel the need from the mannequin to practice on as much. But for a landmark subclavian trauma line, it's the only time we use that particular access point, so we do need a mannequin to be able to practice to get that familiarity. Focusing just on my work and project, I honed it to a very specific thing to meet my needs for the cheapest budget. If you wanted to spend more money and give me the option to spend more money, I'm sure I could look into other things that may have more of a multi-purpose.
That's great. Thank you very much for answering our questions, and I think we're probably done. So wish you the very best of luck with the rest of the process, and thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Our first bid has just been pitched, and what a great standard to start with. So bid number 2 we've got coming up now is from clinical imaging, and this one is going to be presented by
He's just finishing.
Okay.
Good luck. I'm putting you through to Hannah.
This one's going to be presented by Glenda Shaw, and she is going to be pitching some illuminated wall and ceiling panels for up to £10,000. So we're going to be welcoming Glenda in now. Hi, Glenda.
Hi, everyone.
We're ready for you now, Glenda,
okay?
so I'll let you take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Glenda.
Thanks.
Glenda.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm here today with a project, a quality improvement project. It's around bringing the outside in, and it's a patient experience improvement project to support patients undergoing MRI scans here at Royal Cornwall Hospital. So next slide, please. So I'm Glenda Shaw, I'm the Image Quality Service Improvement Lead, a diagnostic radiographer. I have a clinical background in MRI, but now I'm working with imaging with all things quality. And I'm here to bid for up to £10,000 to purchase some LED wall panels or ceiling panels for our new MRI scanners here at Royal Cornwall, in return for happier and hopefully less anxious patients and staff. Next slide, please. So why reduce anxiety in MRI patients? Well, patients undergoing magnetic MRI scans, magnetic resonance imaging, often experience distress and anxiety prior to and during the scanning. And if you've ever been in an MRI scanner, that's formerly known as the tunnel scanner, not the Polo Mint, which is CT. And often this anxiety can result in early termination of scans, and indirectly it affects our image quality in terms of things like movement artifacts. Anxiety is also known to increase things like respiratory rate, peristalsis, the movement of the bowel, fluid flow, and all of these things have potentially have a detrimental effect on the quality of our images. And unbelievably, 37% of patients undergoing MRI scans are thought to have moderate or high levels of anxiety. And I think the other remaining percentage, 63%, probably have a little bit of stress. It is quite a difficult environment to be in. There's been lots of research around anxiety and reduction in anxiety in MRI, but a lot of the kinds of interventions come out as being really time-consuming, costly, things like anaesthesia, sedation, and they're really hard to implement into practice. So we think there's simpler ways of doing this which could help. So next slide, please. So being with nature, I think we all know now that being with nature can reduce anxiety. Often this is completely impossible in clinical imaging departments. Historically, we're always kind of put in basements of hospitals and in dark areas. And I've heard that our new MRI scanner is being referred to as the MRI bunker, which doesn't really sort of give much support to patients going into these areas. So we think a simple solution to this would be to bring some natural light into the department. Unfortunately, this is also really hard because MRI shielding doesn't make this possible. The room has to be shielded from the magnetic exposure. So if you go to the next slide, this is our solution. So this is LED technology, and it's been used in lots of hospitals to bring the outside indoors, and they're amazing. They're LED screens, they can be placed on any walls or ceilings, and they really can be sort of tailored to meet your requirements, so you can select any pictures on there. But I think instantly they give you a feeling, a sense of calm, and bringing the outside in. So next slide, please. So they're designed to be MRI conditional, so that means they're mostly safe to go in the scanners, and they've been we already have them in 2 of our MRI scanners here at Trelisk. They're designed to go into windowless rooms and help to relax patients during therapy treatments or scans, reducing the effects of claustrophobia, patient stress and restlessness. These ones are by Wardray. They're acrylic lit panels, and the new technology they're using now ensures that the light is evenly reflected through the entire panel. Next slide, please. So how much would all this cost? Well, it really depends where you site your panels and how many you put and what size you buy. So really a combination would be best, and we're thinking at two wall panels for each of our 2 brand new scanners would be around £3,900 including VAT. That would leave some money left over if we've had the full £10,000 to get them shipped to us, and some installation costs. So you know, these are the biggest wall units that we could get for the money that's available on offer today. Next slide, please. So what do they look like? Well, the image on the left there is the before, and the image is on the right there is after, and then we've got another picture there of a scanner that's had one of these wall lights put in, and as you can see, it just instantly gives the patient something to focus on. You can, like I said, tailor the picture to suit your needs. They're environmentally friendly, have got a long life, and they don't have any harmful mercury, and they're easy to look after, and they're just wipe clean. Next slide, please. And the benefits are obvious, really. All our staff and patients would benefit. Staff might benefit in terms of them also working in an enjoyable setting, and also it just gives them a bit more time to help support patients if the patients are more relaxed. So the dream is to have at least 2 panels, perhaps in each of our 2 new scan rooms. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And this is my research. It's the scientific proof that being in nature gives you a long and stress-free and happy life. Next slide, please. So in summary, we want to, the Den to hopefully support our bid today. £10,000 would go a long way to improve our scan environment, help to reduce the number of abandoned scans and increase our image quality. We know from our patient feedback that our patients love what we've already got, but we want to extend these improvements to our new scanning department at the front of RCH, so we offer consistent and equitable delivery of care. Next slide, please. So actually, I prefer the next slide. Can you bring the next one up for me? There we go. So any questions? Thanks for listening.
That's great. Thank you very much, Glenda. Thank you for taking the time to do the presentation. I'll just pass on to Kim, I think, this time. Kim, would you like to ask Glenda any questions?
Yes, I promise Amanda I won't steal the patient experience ones, because those are the ones that come to mind, isn't it? So, Glenda, having had the experience of being in one of those, I think they're an absolute must. So I think, so for me, I know that the designs that you've got on the slide set, but are you thinking of tailoring those for adults and children?
Yes, we could do. I mean, we don't have a dedicated paediatric scanner because we like to be able to scan our patients on any available scanner just so we don't delay anyone. They're not interchangeable, so once you've got that design stays. But I think we could probably find something that fits both adults and children. In our other scanners, we've got outside scenes, which I think just make you just feel like there's a bit of open space there, and it's a bit more calm and relaxing. And we work really closely with our paediatric play specialists to bring the whole patient experience, improve the whole paediatric patient experience. So generally, I find some of our children are most relaxed customers by the time they come to us. They really get a lot out of that whole play specialist involvement. So yeah, I think choice of pictures is quite critical.
It is. For those, I know I'm clinical and have an idea, but for those on the panel, especially that aren't clinical, how long do these scans take? It gives people an idea of how long people are in these rooms.
I mean, generally they're about sort of 15 minutes to half an hour. Some of our more complex scans can take up to an hour. So, it's a long time, and 10 minutes in a scanner like that feels like a really long time. I think nearly all of our patients, even our experienced patients, have a little bit of anxiety, not just from having the scan, but also obviously the results. It's really quite a difficult experience. Our teams do an amazing job at relaxing patients, but there is only so much you can do face to face. Some of this has to be sort of psychologically kind of kept in mind, and I think our hospital environments as a whole, if they're relaxing and calming, they have a big impact on both staff and patients, and working all day long in these environments.
Super, thank you very much. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Amanda, do you have any questions for Glenda?
Thanks, Adam. And thanks very much, Glenda. I never knew they existed. This is wonderful to learn about. And especially as someone who likes to look at the pictures my dentist puts on the ceiling, I know how relaxing just having something to concentrate on can be. How many, so I've got sort of two questions. One is quite straightforward to understand how many patients we would be talking about that would be affected by this. And secondly is I know the research shows that that this can reduce anxiety, but have you got any quotes or any feedback from patients that have been able to use the other ones that can describe perhaps the difference it makes for them?
I mean, anecdotally, a lot of our patients, we've got our Tenvenic scanner, which is fairly new and has been designed with patients in mind from the offset. So we've got, as soon as you come in there, we've got murals on the wall, we've got the ceiling light. Patients often comment, this is a really nice place to be, and it's nicer than the other scanner. So we use that. We've also done quite a bit of patient experience feedback in that scanner, and it's all been on the whole really positive. So we know that environment really suits patients. So what we want to do is sort of replicate that in any new environment we bring in. I don't have the figures, but I know that patients that have patient beds on the south-facing sides of hospitals have actually been shown to recover quickly than those that are on north-facing sides of hospitals, just because of natural daylight. So, there's loads of research out there about how patients can benefit from being in nature and being outdoors. And so, for us, this kind of ticks two boxes really. It could help speed up recovery, and it just makes that whole experience a little bit more pleasant for patients. We do use other sources, so we do play patients music, but that's difficult. MRI scanners are noisy, really noisy environments. So music is great, but it's not for everyone, and those who've got hearing issues obviously don't benefit from that. So yeah, it's there's lots of patient experience things that we can bring into MRI, and we do that quite often, with psychological sort of support and things. But we hope this will just increase compliance to scans, help patients to feel more relaxed, and just generally make it a nicer experience all round.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more, Amanda? Are you okay?
That's fine, thank you.
Great. My question, Glenda, was just about the selection of the photo. So do we have, is there a stock photo album that we look through, or do we get to choose our picture?
Either or, really. So so Wardrow, who produce these, they can use our own pictures if we've got anything particular in mind. So if we wanted to make it relevant to Cornwall, perhaps we could have one of our local beaches on there or something similar. Otherwise, there are stock images, and they're all very sort of scenic. So the two that you can see in the slide next to me, they're from stock images, and we've got the Blossom one actually in one of our scanners as a ceiling light. You do get to select what you would like. I think it depends on the panels that you have and the size of them as to what what works best. But Wardrow work with you to help you achieve the best outcome.
Okay, great. That's great. So it's a really clear presentation. Thank you very much for running through it and answering our questions. And good luck with the rest of the process.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Well, thank you so much. So, bid 2 there. I have to say, I'm sure everybody else agrees, I don't envy the panel this afternoon, having to make these decisions, some really tough ones to be made. So we're on to our third and final pitch for the group of Brilliant Care. And just to say that following this, there will be a short film played while our dragons have some time to have some discussions about which bid will be successful. So our next bid, our next pitch is going to be, again, a representative from clinical imaging. And here we've got Shannon Best lined up and ready. So Shannon, off you go.
So, hello everyone, my name is Shannon, and today I am pitching my plans for the improvement of Side Room 1 on Wellington Ward in aid of adults with cystic fibrosis. I work under a small team called Anella within the hospital. The improvement of the side room means a lot to me. My sister has cystic fibrosis and has stayed in that side room many times throughout her life, and I've always wanted to make her feel happy and more comfortable during her stays, in whatever way I can, really. So if I could secure the funding, it would not only mean the support for her, but for the support for the other 40 CF patients currently in Cornwall. Because we do not have a centre for cystic fibrosis in Cornwall due to the lower population of CF patients, I feel like upgrading Side Room 1 to match the standards of care that's seen in the country. Typically, stays for these patients last anywhere from a couple of weeks to a few months, depending on treatment and severity. But it also needs to be noted this is a lifelong illness, so a large portion of their life is spent in the healthcare setting. Because of this, I feel strongly that their side room should be a positive and comfortable experience for them to stay during their stay with us even. To achieve this, my main priority is to install an ensuite within the room, as well as making the side room itself appear much brighter and fresher looking to help with the welcoming feel. CF patients usually have weakened immune systems as well, so especially towards other respiratory illnesses. So I feel that it's important so they can have their own private space to maintain hygiene and basically maintain their own mental well-being. I want there to be a shower, a sink and a toilet to be all accessible, so even if they find standing difficult, they can still be accommodated in their own private space and keep their independence. Currently, the shower needs to be deep cleaned before every use due to their immunocompromised nature, which can make timing difficult as they need to book a cleaning slot in advance. There is also issues with privacy as other patients can tend to walk in on them while they're showering. Which puts them into extremely vulnerable position, really, especially when they're already quite unwell. So having their own private shower would mean eliminate the issue and allow them the privacy and dignity they deserve, really. And again, aid their mental well-being concerning the security around them. To keep the room looking bright and welcoming, we are looking to install plastic walls to aid in easier cleaning to coincide with infection control within the ensuite space. Typically for adult CF care, the age ranges from about 18 to 50 years old. So I want it to appear more youthful in the side room with more comforting colours for the age group. And after discussion with the ward sister on Wellington, we have agreed that lighter colours could be a possibility to help the room to seem a lot brighter. Inside room 3, there is also upgraded wood-like laminate flooring that took a maximum of 3 days to install. This all would help the room feel more welcoming and cosier to be in. Also, if possible, I want to see a little bit more different types of lighting, maybe ones that improve sort of circadian rhythm. Since they are in there for quite a long time, it can be quite disorientating and it helps them feel more rested, really. So I'm a big believer that despite having a lifelong illness such as CF, Being happier mentally will aid recovery. So with the environment, I want to match it with their mental side, which includes entertainment within the side room to help keep their minds busy during their stay, such as exercise and video games. I have at present been communicating with estates about potential figures for the cost of the ensuite and revamping the side room. Currently, the costs lay about £6,000 to £8,000, depending on which equipment I choose for the side room. Though this should be mentioned, these are ballpark figures. However, this is well within the £10,000 budget. I have been informed by Wellington that there's also reserves of money for this project, as well as this grant. This would massively help, basically, towards any more improvements that we seek in the future. Over the last year, and the team of Vanella have been busy organising fundraisers to not only gather donations to support the patients, but also to raise awareness. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we've had to make the decision early to cancel all fundraisers, of the concern of safety. Hopefully in the future, when it's safe to do so, we shall continue fundraising to support the upkeep of the room, as well as any other projects we wish to pursue in the future. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you very much, Shannon. It's what a great presentation. Thank you very much for taking the time to do it. It's really, really clear, and you did a really great job at it. So well done.
Thank you.
I'm going to pass on to Amanda, if that's okay. Any questions first?
Okay.
Thanks, Adam, and thanks, Shannon. That was really great. And really interesting, actually. And you mentioned there are 40. Was it 40? You said CF patients in Cornwall at the moment. Yes. So you talked with really vivid picture of what the space might look like. Have you got any plans for involving existing patients in the design of how the refurbed room would look?
Yes, so actually one of those patients is my sister, who's been staying on that side room for a very long time. So I've been working quite closely with her and directly with Wellington Ward as well about sort of like positioning and what the patients want. I've been working with one of the cystic fibrosis physios as well quite closely. She's part of my team. So we've been all discussing what they need and where they need it, basically.
Okay, thank you. And my other question was just to get an understanding of timescale. So if you were to be successful it's great to know that with the fundraising there's some other funding around to really make this quite special. What sort of timescale would this take? When would it be ready for patients to use, I guess?
So this was a bit difficult because the first thing we had to consider was when to do it. So a less busier time in the hospital will be more ideal, and have contingency plans to have patients relocated in case it does get a bit busy. So when discussing with the wards about the laminate flooring inside room 3, that took 3 days. So the walls and the floors can be done within 3 days. The plumbing side and the electrical side, so for the side room ensuite itself, may take a little bit longer. So I'm assuming through planning and discussion with the estates that it will take about 2 weeks to get everything in place effectively.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent, thanks, Shannon. Over to Kim.
Yeah, Shannon, thank you very much. I'm always sad when I hear about privacy and dignity issues as well.
Oh.
So it might be, yeah, it must be. You must feel really vulnerable if you're worried about people walking in when you're in a shower, isn't it? It's really not pleasant to hear. You did speak a little bit. Yeah, you did speak a little bit about other funding as well. So what do you think £10,000 is about your gap, or are you expecting?
So I don't think the other funding is actually a great deal, but the £10,000 would ensure that we can get the greatest equipment we could possible, really. I do want it to be a little bit more accessible, so even if CF patients aren't using it, other people can still use it, and if they have got disability issues, it completely caters to them as well, really. It's basically, I want this room to be for everyone, so I want it to be for CF patients first and foremost, because that's what the room is for, but I also want it to be for everybody else, so anybody else can use it, and it's still accessible for everyone. So if we have to up the quality a little bit, then we can.
Brilliant. So you actually asked my second question, because recognising there's 40, it would be really great to open up to others as well, wouldn't it? So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And my colleagues have actually asked the questions I was going to ask as well, so it's all been covered. Fantastic. Yeah, again, really well done on your presentation. I know it's quite stressful to come on to this sort of thing and do that, so you did a really great job. And thank you for your time, and good luck with the rest of the process. We will get back to you soon.
Thank you as well.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you.
I want to.
I want to.
I want to.
I want to.
We want to. Say thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Kate Shields. I'm the Chief Executive of Royal Cornwall Hospitals. And I just want to say a massive thank you to all of those individuals, companies, businesses that have supported us during COVID. You've been amazing. We are really, really lucky to have you, and we will do everything we can to make sure that we continue to serve you in a way that's right, and that we repay you for all the kindness you've shown us. Thank you.
Royal Cornwall Hospitals Trust Charity have been the beneficiaries of huge levels of generosity during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our local community and supporters are making a difference every day, raising funds and donating to do more for our patients and our hospitals, providing additional equipment, enhancing environments, or giving the extras for our staff, not just during the COVID-19 pandemic, but throughout the year. And we just love how they do it. Taking to the dance floor in RCHT Charity's very own Come Dance With Us.
How lucky can one guy be? I kissed her and she kissed me.
Partying at Truro Cathedral in the very first event of its kind in this iconic Cornish location. Our own trust staff not afraid to get involved and get gunged to raise funds. And of course, our wonderful community raising funds for causes close to their hearts. Kieran walked circuits of his garden.
Kieran, you've raised £4,000. No way! Thank you.
Emily completed a back garden Ironman. Dina set to screen printing rainbows of hope.
As we all know, during the pandemic, our frontline workers put themselves at risk to protect our family, our friends and our loved ones. So it was important for me to help raise money for them. I wanted to do something rather than nothing. So I created the Rainbows of Hope. The Rainbows of Hope all came in editions, and everybody out there who bought one helped me to raise £3,000 for the Royal Cornwall Hospital. So a big thank you and big hugs to you. Thank you.
With all the donations to RCHT Charity, we strive to put the donations to the best possible use for the benefit of our patients, our staff and our volunteers.
So this is Isabel. She's 25 days old. Been a little bit of a monkey and a bit of a fighter so far, but she's doing well. And by the look of it, she's certainly enjoying this. So thank you obviously to everyone for raising the money to come and get it as well.
So our new baby Leos are really good for many, many reasons. Predominantly for families now, they are really, really accessible compared to our old ones. So the old ones used to go up and down as well, which is great for obviously parents' height and if they're sitting. You can now lift I'm just going to lift it up just for a second. Lift this up for easy access for parents and if we're doing procedures, and automatically the heater will come on to make sure the baby stays nice and warm. And also these sides come down as well, so again when we're doing procedures we can get really close to the baby but they're nice and safe and warm in here. If mummies are in a wheelchair and they can't actually get up to stand up near the incubator, it goes as low as right all the way down, and the tray can come out so baby can come out to mummy, which is also different to what we've currently got. and also you've got easy, sort of really close little doors here that are really quiet, so we're trying to keep the noise down for the baby, things like that they've thought about, which are really easy to use. Talking about sound, it actually tells us up here if it's too noisy in the environment, so perhaps if there's procedures going on, there's lots of people in the room, it tells us on a guide, so we can actually say, everyone be a bit quieter, because we're trying to mimic the baby still being in the womb. And also alongside that, we also know the lighting as well, so they're kept covered all the time, obviously, unless we need to be looking at what's happening with them. And that probably is it in a nutshell, as in for us, which is much better than what we've been used to, so they are fantastic and we love having them.
Okay, hi, well, meet our lovely new mannequin. So we put forward a presentation to secure some funding so we could purchase our own mannequin. Because it comes in his own suitcase, as you can see here, on wheels, it means that we can do training nights, days, any day of the week, because everyone can have access to the suitcase. So the beauty of this particular mannequin is that it has an airway head, which means that we can practice airway skills such as intubation, RSI, putting in airway adjuncts, bagging, as we demonstrated earlier, but we can also put on monitoring to deliver shocks, so we can be practicing CPR, ALS algorithms, BLS, things like that as well. So this mannequin allows us to practice key ED skills, which are life-saving and need to be delivered in a very timely manner, and are things that sometimes when shifts are particularly busy we don't get opportunity to practice, whereas now that we have this mannequin here on wheels, if we have a small window we can pull him out and go over skills that we might have just delivered in practice, and or if we've had a particular difficult scenarios and we want to do a debrief and we want to run through things in a more controlled, safe environment in which people can ask questions and practice things, then we can also do that with this mannequin too.
Many staff across the Trust have received funding to improve their staff rest areas or to give thanks to their team for their hard work.
Thank you! Thank you to everyone who's kindly donated us vouchers to have a hot drink on site. We really, really appreciate it.
We're just about to give our verdict.
Yeah.
So, welcome back everybody. So we've had a small break there for our dragons to have a deliberation, and now we're told that they have made their decision, so we're all eagerly awaiting to find out what they've decided. So, let's bring our dragons back. And who's going to have the pleasure of giving some feedback and making the announcement?
Do you want me to do that?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay. So can the individuals that presented to us still hear us? Yes.
If they're watching live, they can hear.
Okay. I'll presume they're watching live. So thank you very much for taking the time to both bid for the money and also the time to prepare a presentation and present to us. All of the presentations were fantastic. I know it's very stressful for you to do that, so really appreciate all the effort that you put into it. As you'd expect, we thought all of the bids were great and all in their own way impact really positively on patient care, so fantastic. What we're going to do is, we think that the illuminated walls, we think that's fantastic, but hopefully we're going to have some time between now and when the new oncology MRI building comes into play to try and fund that in a different way. So not successful this time. With the stimulation mannequin, Kim has very, very kindly offered to try and twist Alistair Grant's arm, and between the two of them fund that, because it's quite clear that you found a gap in our training really, and such a simple change to what we do could change lives. So Kim and Alistair will look to fund that. And we're really, really pleased to be able to support the cystic fibrosis side room and the works that you're going to do there. So that is our winning bid for today. What we would ask, Shannon, if you're listening, is to just talk to the other funds that you mentioned, just to make sure that they're ready to support you should it be over £10,000. And if you can involve patients in the design, just to make sure that we've got that covered as well. And if Bev Wills is listening, just wanted to find out if Bev, you could try and talk to some of our contractors on site about whether they can provide some labour free of charge to make sure we can deliver this within £10,000.
Of course, I'll do my best.
Thank you very much, Bev. So that is our decision today. Thank you again to everybody for taking the time.
Great presentation.
Yeah. Thank you all. So we're going to swiftly move on. You're welcome. Hi, welcome back. So we're going to swiftly move on to our next category, which is the Brilliant People category. So I'm just going to introduce the dragons to you again in a moment. So we've got Adam Wielden, who's the Deputy Director of Finance. We've got Amanda Stratford, who's the Chief Exec of Healthwatch Cornwall. And we've got Kerry Aldridge, who's the Director of People and OD. Hello, everyone.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
So we've got Adam, we've got Amanda, and we've got Kerry Aldridge for our Brilliant People category. How fantastic. We've got 3 absolutely ginormous bids that are absolutely really exciting. We've got Isney Platt from Estates, who wants to talk to us about creating a green space. We've got a bid from Cardiology, Dr. Pushkar Bora, who wants to look at a programme for empowering foreign graduates. And we've got Gilly Luck and Sarah Tarbrett to train 12 senior staff to be trim practitioners. So we look forward to seeing Isney. Isney, welcome.
Thank you.
Take it away.
Okay, so my name is Isney Platt and I work for the Estates Department as a Facilities and Contracts Manager, and I also, hang on, they shouldn't be there yet. I also line manage the grounds team here at the Royal Cornwall Hospital. I'm here to bid for the full £10,000. This is to refurbish the mothballed head gardener's porter cabin and the overground walled garden, which is next to Chivene House behind the hub. You may not have been employed long enough at the Trust to remember when this was open, when you could go there and buy plants. When I worked here 18 years ago, I used to go down there and it was a wonderful thing to do during your break. It was really special. I aim to create a green space which will be an education and resource hub and office space for myself. The area will become a centre where we can host workshops and team building days, where experts will be invited in to instruct and demonstrate on a variety of environmental and health subjects, such as how to build a bug hotel or how to grow and cook with fresh herbs. The space will also contain a greenhouse where we'll propagate plants that we can sell and several raised beds for growing herbs and fragrant flowers such as sweet peas. It will have a resource centre which will be packed with current plant, gardening and environmental information, and we will host a bulb and seed swap library. There will be a webcam for the viewing area so staff can observe nature on our RCH site. The gates will be open 5 days a week for all staff to visit during their breaks. Benches will be installed and with raised beds to create a tranquil, calming space where staff can enjoy the planting. My aim is to involve all staff as much as possible with the grounds and gardens so that they can integrate with the whole site beyond their work base. Now the next slide should be a picture of the current condition of the current garden, but I think we've jumped ahead with the slides. That's it there. So I have ambition. At the moment it's completely overgrown and it's just behind a gate. Could you just take a few moments to pause and reflect on these beautiful images? Thank you. Thank you.
you
Benefits of
very
being
much.
outdoors and gardening have been widely documented with helping with well-being. As recently supported by Monty Don, the very popular presenter of Gardener's World on the BBC television, who has suffered bouts of depression and has suffered about 10 years ago. He also knows the importance of being out. He knows the importance of being outside only too well. He says, gardening has helped with my well-being immeasurably on a number of levels. In terms of physical activity, it is increasingly shown it is one of the best and most healthy things that anyone can do. Some of the feedback from his viewers of the show has been, being outside, embracing nature really helped my mental health, especially during lockdown. There is a Centre for Sustainable Healthcare, and this is a consultancy group that is based in Oxford, that have worked on a number of green space projects in conjunction with NHS Forest. They give advice to organisations on how to improve the natural environment and reconnect their staff, their patients and the wider community with the local green space to benefit their health. New research from the Centre highlights the value of green space in health facilities in supporting staff well-being. By providing green space resource at 3 NHS sites, they explored how the staff benefited from the physical activity of regularly visiting the facility during their breaks. Other physical benefits were to encourage healthy eating and decrease risk of illness. The emotional benefits for staff, as the studies concluded, were to reduce psychological stress by interacting with plants. The benefits of plants and gardening improves the mood, relieves stress and anxiety, and prolongs the attention span and boosts self-esteem. Taking into consideration all the above evidence, the provision of this green space education hub for our staff will supply them with the tools to become healthier and therefore happier within themselves. And I think we'll all agree, when we feel happy and calm and not stressed and worried, we are better at our jobs. And my aim is to provide this space for our staff to become more brilliant as people and more able to provide better, brilliant care to our patients. Any questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation. I certainly felt more relaxed looking at those nice pictures that you put up, so thanks for that. I'm just going to pass on to Kerry, I think, for the first question, if that's okay.
Thanks, Adam. Great presentation, Isni. In terms of the pitch for the £10,000, is it to renovate the porter cabin as well as the grounds?
Yes, I've got a little bit of a price breakdown here. The porter cabin would be about £3,000 to refurbish. The installation, we have a greenhouse that's the other side of the site that we can move across. And we just need to fix it up a bit. That would be about £2,000. Costs for the raised beds and soil and benches, about £1,000. Resources, £1,000. Plants, £1,000. And then the VAT would be £2,000 on that.
Okay, thank you. And do you know the time frame that you would aim to work within?
If I am permitted to start, I could start straight away, really, because we need to clear it, obviously, and I've got lots of secateurs and cutting implements. I can sort of put my time into it as well, because obviously our gardeners are stretched. And also I am aiming to put together a staff volunteering gardening group, and if I can speed up on that, we could also get perhaps a couple of volunteers in, as long as they had sort of protective clothing, because it is very brambly. But yes, there's no reason why we can't start cutting back, look at the little refurb for the porter cabin, which would be my base, moving the greenhouse, and then actually build. I mean, it's a little bit difficult until we cut back to know exactly what's there, but we know it was a walled garden. We know there's water there. We know we've got power, because we remember there being power there. And with the gates might need a bit of refurbing, but I think it's a little bit suck it and see, shall I say, but I think that we can do it, definitely.
Great, thank you. That's all my questions.
Thanks, Kerry.
Okay.
Amanda, do you have any questions for Isni?
Yes, please. Thanks very much, Isni. I share your passion for gardens, and speaking as someone who was involved in project management at Chelsea Garden, absolutely couldn't agree more about its effect on people's well-being and mental health. So you talked about lots of evidence and research around how it can benefit people. Could you share with us what evidence you have around the fact that the staff at RCHT would use it, and how would you go about promoting its availability?
I think, well, it would be getting a lot of, I've been doing the Wellbeing newsletter, I've been contributing to that on a monthly basis, so, and I've got quite a following already, I've had some really positive feedback. So it would be through the newsletter. Also, then we could I could ask for more comms, I suppose. Also, the staff volunteering group, which I'm hoping to get going, and then I want to sort of liaise with the wellbeing group. So Anna DL and me could work together. We could make that a feature, and I think just getting it out there really, and I think it's making people feel that they can come. So it would be me probably, you know, maybe even just being in the JK garden, whereas in the summer, I don't know if you know, this summer would be a lovely summer. It was really well used, and I could even leaflet drop around there and say, look, you know, we have got this facility. It's a little bit further to walk, and realise that. But that's part of the well-being, is that people actually walk somewhere, have a purpose, maybe just look us up, just ask us a question. I can't obviously be there all day, every day, because I will have other jobs, but there will be the resource centre that people can drop into. We have lots of information. We've got Andrew, one of our gardeners, who's been here for 25 years, and Andrew will take quite a part of that in the sort of propagation side within the greenhouse. And I think if we can involve staff volunteers, we'll always have somebody there, probably. I'd like to think we'd have just somebody where people will mingle a bit, if you know what I mean, and go, oh, let's go there. Sorry, I'm waffling as usual.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, so my question was around who would run it, really. How would we, I know you talked a lot about some getting volunteers involved, which is great, but just practically, who would look after it? If it's an office, people can go in there, I guess. Who would run it on a day-to-day basis?
I see because it's going to be my office base, because as I manage the gardening team, and their base is in the garages, and currently where I am, which is the other side of the site, we spend a lot of time walking back and forth, which doesn't really make sense. Most of the green space is down this side of the site, and it would make more sense for me to be there. So I sort of envision myself, I work 8 till 4, I would go in, I would unlock the gates, unlock my office, I would be there, and then when I wasn't there, I'd lock up the office. But the actual area, I think we could keep open. I don't see why we shouldn't have. I don't think that we need, you know, a custodian there, you know, all the time. And it would be, you know, people would perhaps we'd be able to sort of do is actually have signage and just say, look, you help yourself to this, or take a seat. I mean, you know, that is a risk. Obviously, it would be open, and we do have people on site that can wander in and out. But we'll just have to sort of watch that and make sure, you know, maybe we have security cameras.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for your presentation and taking the time to run through it with us.
Thank you.
And we'll let you know the outcome in about 20 minutes. Thanks, Isni.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isni. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next, thank you, Isni, for your presentation. It was fabulous. So next we've got Dr. Pushkar Bura, who's going to talk to us about a programme to empower foreign graduates. He's looking to bid up to £5,000. So over to you, Dr. Bura.
Hello.
We have a few problems with the video link, but I think Pushkar can hear us.
Okay, great. Could I have my slides, please? Yeah, great. Thank you. Hello, my name is Pushkar Bura, and I'm a cardiology registrar, and I'm going to be talking about my project today. Could we have the next slide, please? Thank you. So the basic outline of my presentation is that I'm going to give a background as to why this project is important. I will then briefly mention my project, and I'll talk about why we need to empower our colleagues, and finally I'll draw some conclusions. Next slide, please. So next slide again, please. So thank you. So it's no news that we are understaffed up and down the country, but the NHS long-term plan suggests that international recruitment is a strategy to solve staff issues in the NHS. Next slide, please. So with that in mind, in the acute medical unit, we recruited a cohort of 9 doctors, all foreign graduates, and apart from one doctor, all other doctors never had prior NHS experience. And these people, as you can see, have come from all across the world, be it Egypt, India, Bangladesh, Myanmar. Next slide, please. But what we also know is people from ethnic minority background are more prone to facing disadvantages in various stages of their career, right from medical school to training, to research, to recruitment. And let's face it, they are more prone to bullying and harassment. And sadly, they are more prone to being referred to the GMC. Next slide, please. If you look into the literature, there are lots of literature suggesting that even in postgraduate exams, be it MRCP, MRCGP, foreign graduates don't do as well as their white counterparts. Next slide, please. Now, this is where my project comes in. Next slide, please. So I have done a presentation for them. I've asked them to evaluate themselves, and I've also started a buddy system where I've got buddy for each of those foreign graduates where they can talk about their problems and come with solutions. And finally, I have intention of starting mentoring and coaching where these foreign graduates are being given coaching sessions by professionals, and this is where I would need your help. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as a trainee, we do have mentoring scheme even in our deanery, and as someone who's been through that, I know how effective it is. But sadly, these non-trainees do not have the benefit. Next slide, please. And this is more so pertinent in our hospital. Why? Because Cornwall is one of the least ethnically diverse region, and there are some practical issues, and this is also going to help with retention and recruitment. Next slide, please. And why empower? Next slide. Of course, it's going to help them. It's going to help boost their confidence, their social and academic confidence. It's also going to help them with their communication. And it's all about that sense of becoming, and belonging. We don't want them to come to this part of the world and feel lost. Next slide, please. Equally, it is likely to be beneficial for others as well. For fellow trainees, the rota gaps are likely to lessen, and there is likely to be more satisfaction. And also for patients, we want the best care for our patients, and they're more likely to be confident of the care they're receiving. Next slide, please. And for the trust, of course, apart from recruitment and retention, this could potentially be a new start. We recruited 9 doctors. You know, we could have problems with other specialties. Maybe surgery needs these doctors. So we could start recruiting foreign doctors. And also, it might help with the workforce race equality and standard. And perhaps less controversial, but perhaps there might be less of referrals to the GMC. Next slide, please. And it's worth mentioning that there was a report last year, Fair to Refer, and it does strongly recommend that doctors who are new to the NHS should have the support they require. And next slide, please. And next slide. So So finally, I'm just going to conclude by saying international recruitment can help the NHS staff shortages, but we need to look after these doctors and nurses and not just recruit them. And empowering international doctors can be beneficial for doctors themselves, but also for our patients and the trust in general. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much for taking the time to run us through the presentation. It's clear, obviously, some of our colleagues have got some quite significant challenges, haven't they, when they come and work with the trust. I was just going to ask you a very quick question in relation to the presentation.
This right, and once we are confident that we can do this in a proper way, then of course this is likely to help any other member of staff in the NHS.
Thank you very much. Amanda, would you like to ask any questions?
Yes, please, and thank you, Adam, and thank you very much for the presentation. I just want to understand a little bit more about what the £5,000 that you're bidding for would actually be being spent on. Is it being spent on the mentoring programme, or I'm just not quite clear where that money is actually going?
Sorry, it wasn't that clear, but yes, it would be spent on mentoring and coaching. As I mentioned in my presentation, that currently as a trainee, I'm entitled to mentoring scheme, but these non-trainee foreign graduates are not entitled to mentoring scheme. So what we need to do is get professionals out, and currently mentoring costs about anywhere from £50 to £100 an hour, and that's where we would like to spend money on. With 9 international graduates, if we were to divide that £5,000, it would be about £550 each for these doctors. So yes, it will be spent on mentoring scheme.
So I couldn't agree with you more about mentoring. I'm passionate about it as a way of personal helping people with their personal development. Is it? Forgive me because I'm not in the NHS, so I just want to understand, would that be being spent within an existing scheme that already exists, or would this be about individuals actually finding their own mentor, for example, privately?
So currently, unfortunately, there isn't a mentoring scheme for non-trainees. So just to answer your question, yes, it would be about finding people privately and funding for those sessions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Over to you, Kerry.
Thank you. And like Amanda, I couldn't agree more that we need to make sure that our new colleagues that join us, especially from international areas, are well supported and coached and budded as part of their induction with us. We do have a few things in place, so my brain is whirring about how we tie it all up. Is it purely for your department, the bid? It's not that we would use this as a pilot and then look to roll it out across the trust?
So thank you for the question. So currently, to my understanding, in this trust, we've never had a cohort of doctors recruited. So I'm sure there'll be lots of departments like surgery and ops and gynae looking into us. And if we can get this right, that might inspire other departments. Just to answer your question, yes, currently it stands only for medicine, but I cannot see why this could inspire other departments as well.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and we will let you know the outcome in probably be about 25 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Hello. So now next on the agenda is Gilly Luck and Sarah Tabrett from the neonatal department, and they're going to look to train 12 senior staff to be trim practitioners, and they're looking for a bid of £4,100. Good luck.
Thank you.
Hello both.
Hello, do we start when we're ready?
Go for it, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, my name is Sarah and this is Gilly. And between us, we have over 50 years of neonatal experience, and that's why we're here to bid for training for an exciting new way of supporting people through traumatic events. TRIM training is an innovative approach in neonatal care, but has been used in other professions such as the Army, the Navy, the Fire and the Police Force successfully. I absolutely love my job. This is the best job in the world for me, but neonatal care can be exciting and wonderful and both terrifying and traumatic at the same time. I can still remember my most traumatic delivery. It was 4.5 years ago, but sometimes it still feels like yesterday. As I entered the room, I saw the tears falling down a mum's face. She was alone. Her husband wasn't allowed in the room as they were rushing to perform an emergency caesarean section as she had had a massive hemorrhage, meaning that her and her baby's life was in extreme danger. The surgery was performed in her clothes that she was wearing, something that I hadn't seen before or since that day, as every second counted between life and death. The first 180 seconds of a baby's life are the most important, and this baby girl was born white, floppy, not breathing, and with no heart rate. I suctioned copious amounts of blood from the back of her throat so that I could insert a small breathing tube to get air and oxygen to her lungs. We performed cardiac massage on her tiny chest, which made her heart start to pump, and by 2.5 minutes she was alive again. That was both the worst and the best day of my career. However, I'm very glad to say that she's now a beautiful, thriving little girl, and you can see her picture in the slideshow. That day was a life-changing moment for her family and myself, and I know that the aftermath of that trauma lives with them as it does with me. My colleagues and I experience distressing situations on a regular basis, and this birth is just one example of what we deal with every day. Ginny and I, over the years, have been in the heart of unprecedented levels of staff-related trauma, and even though we're very experienced neonatal individuals, we have struggled on occasions to know how to deal with the outfall of emotions. If this is how we feel, then I am sure this is similar to the rest of our team. We need a structured peer support system to build resilience within our team.
So, what is TRIM? It's a trauma-focused peer support system designed to help people who have experienced a traumatic event. It's a tried and tested, internationally recognised tool. A TRIM practitioner will have received training to help them understand the effects that traumatic events have on people. They're not counsellors or therapists. They are trained to listen, offer practical advice and assistance. They are trained to spot signs of distress in people that may go unnoticed. They are proactive rather than reactive. TRIM is delivered to a multidisciplinary team. TRIM is highly effective because people are often more comfortable talking to peers. TRIM trained people are taught how not to re-traumatise, but to build resilience. Building a resilient workforce through TRIM outside the time of crisis can help during a difficult time or when crisis actually hits. How will TRIM work here at Trelisk? The TRIM process itself will start by identifying and including all persons involved in any traumatic event. Practitioners carry out assessments and meetings, then signpost people to support through a structured process. TRIM will be enshrined in a bespoke policy. How will TRIM make brilliant people? Ethically, it will provide practitioners with the ability to give better management and support structure for the mental health of staff and families of sick babies. It will keep staff at work. 50% of sickness absence is due to stress-related mental health. Practitioners will be trained to improve staff confidence and mental well-being. Practitioners will have an enhanced oversight of incidents or traumas involving parents and their families through the TRIM process, thus preventing ruinous aftermath. Legally, knowing how to exercise your duty of care to people who may have been involved in traumatic events is vital. The TRIM approach is fully consistent with the NICE guidance on traumatic stress management.
So in summary, we are brilliant people delivering brilliant neonatal care, but we need trim training to support and protect our team to build brilliant minds. Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, both. I'd say it's absolutely our pleasure to listen. What a great pitch, and thank you very much for spending the time to give us such an excellent and clear presentation. Kerry, would you like to ask any questions?
Thank you, Adam. In terms of the training, is it a train-the-trainer model, or is it that your 12 people would be all trained by a trim expert?
So it's the 12 people would be trained as trim practitioners. So they then would be delivering trim processed care towards either families or staff. There is, however, within this company, the ability to become trim trainers, and we'll probably be back in the den next year bidding for trim training funding.
Love the double pitch. Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, nice one, that. Amanda, over to you.
Yeah, I love that. Plant the seed early. Excellent.
Excellent.
I'm just trying to think how to phrase the question. So the 12 seniors. Can you tell me what you mean by senior staff? Again, sorry, not NHS. So I need to understand who the cohort would be.
So we would pick 12 sort of senior members of staff across our neonatal care department. So that would involve people that we would be directly involved with our delivery suite, and maybe some of the midwifery team. So we would have a varied skill mix across different integrated departments so that we could learn from each other and improve our communication and team working between us all. And so we would sort of carefully pick the 12 members.
Sorry, I spoke over you. No, I was just going to ask you, how would you evaluate the effectiveness of the training?
So what we would measure the success of this, if this bid is successful, by auditing staff sickness absence, staff well-being. We would base the parent feedback audits that we do and measure it from those evaluations.
Great, thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much for your presentation. Really appreciate it. And if you tune in literally about 3 or 4 minutes, you will find out the outcome. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Thanks very much.
Welcome back. So thank you ever so much for Isney, Pushkar, Jilly and Sarah for their fantastic pitches. We're just going to take a short break now and listen to the QI video while the Dragons have a deliberation and come back with the result. Thank you very much.
Vision at the Royal Cornwall Hospitals Trust is to provide brilliant care to one and all. But how do we know when that vision has been achieved? The fact is, we all know that for most things there is always room for improvement, and therefore change is required to achieve it. So even if we think we are providing brilliant care, there are always adjustments that can be made to continually improve and achieve our ultimate goal of better patient outcomes and experiences. Whether that might be tackling the high priority complex issues demanding the attention of organisational leads, or just making tweaks to a process that results in improvements to a service or job role. As healthcare providers and clinicians, we would expect and encourage our patients to be proactive in improving their lives. So why wouldn't we, as a healthcare provider, have that same expectation of ourselves? At the Royal Cornwall Hospitals Trust we do. And everyone has a role to play, from staff to patients and their families. So what is quality improvement, or QI as it is known in healthcare? It is the continuous process of looking at how we as individuals, as teams and as an organisation could do things better, safer and more effectively and efficiently to bring about brilliant improvements for the care of our patients. So, what is the QI Hub?
Well, the aim of the QI Hub is to build QI quality improvement capability in the Trust through support and training and the use of internationally approved QI methodology.
So what does it mean for me? So the QI Hub is a place where staff members can come and learn QI tools and techniques. They can discuss and gain support for their ideas from other people that are already undertaking projects, and we can give them the tools and the techniques to deliver the project for themselves.
So by giving everyone the ability to do QI, and by giving access to resources to support them, that will in turn support the care groups to deliver sustainable improvements, which in turn support the Trust in delivering large-scale organisational improvements, all of which are working towards improving patient outcomes and experience.
Welcome back. So I think we've got a decision from the Dragons. Is that right, Dragons? I'll hand over to Adam.
Thank you very much, Bev. So thank you very much to everybody who has put the time and effort into putting a bid in and presenting to us. So they're all fantastic bids, all really, really clear and all very worthwhile projects. So amazing to see that. We're really, it's our honour really and our privilege to be able to support the neonatal bid. Trauma comes in so many different forms, doesn't it? Especially this year has probably been something that's affected very many people, and we can see the benefits of that, the trim training in relation to both staff and our family. So many benefits there, and it really links in with the brilliant people category. So congratulations to you guys. Dr. Burrow, just going to say, if you get in touch with Kerry, Kerry will be able to talk to you about your bid a little bit more detail. And Kerry, you're going to mention something about the volunteers and the gardening?
Yeah, thank you, Adam. So, yeah, Dr. Burrow, we'd really like to look at how we support all of our international recruits, and we'll have a follow-up conversation with Alistair around making sure that we get the right support in place for colleagues, new colleagues. And Isney, we would love to support and look at how we support you with setting up the volunteers so that we can do at least the garden clearance and tidy up. and I'm sure if you get us to volunteer at ours, we'll be right there with you, trimming back the brambles.
Great. Well done, everybody, and congratulations to Julie and Sarah and their colleagues.
Thank you, everyone. Well done.
Wow, well that's the second group done and dusted. Aren't they just fantastic, all of our pictures? So now we're moving on to our third category, which is for brilliant improvement. And we are joined by a different panel member this time. So we still have our panel, two panel members of Adam Wilden, our Deputy Director of Finance, and Amanda Stratford from Health Watch Cornwall. And for this group, we're joined by Tom Lafferty, who is our Director of Strategy and Performance at RCHT. So we're going to be looking at 3 bids within this section. First of all, we're going to be hearing from Dr. Bill Stapleforth from Sterile Services. We've seen a little preview of the bid and where they are, and I tell you, you're in for a treat. And then we're going to be going to the critical care medicine and speech and language therapy, and then finally within this group onto child health. So now we have our dragons in place. You can see them on your screens now. And we're going to welcome Dr. Bill Stapleforth for the first bid in this group. Welcome, Bill.
Hello, my name is Bill Stapleforth. I'm the Clinical Sustainability Lead here at Frilis. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm here to bid for, similar to this, for sterile services. The one we're looking to bid for is a tricycle with a sealed unit for transporting sterile materials from the Sterile Services Department over to the Trust. The NHS has made a commitment to go carbon net zero by 2040. Our Trust has made a commitment to do so by 2030. This would form an initial part of a sort of signal of that commitment by the Trust. This bike is made in Denmark, but it comes from a local business, Top Gear Cycles down in Penryn. Quick mention to those guys there. Thank you for lending us for the day. The benefits. I know it's a bike, but the benefits of active travel are numerous for physical health and mental health. At the moment, they're getting in a car and driving just 100 yards or 200 yards over there and coming back again. That's no good for them. It's no good for particulate pollution within the Trust. It's no good for traffic around the Trust. It's no good for patients. It's one bike, but as I say, if we are successful, it will signal an intention by the Trust to get both staff and patients more active with their travel. Cars are fine, but they're very bad for you in lots of ways, both breathing in the exhaust, the pollution, and by being a sedentary form of transport. The benefits of active transport are great. In terms of the practicalities, it's similar to this. It's a tricycle. In terms of the popularity of the ride, it's the same for the equipment as being in a car. It can cover 20 to 30 miles with 2 factories, so it can go 24 hours a day. It's got lights. As I say, it's got a sealed container which fulfills the specification for transporting sterile services materials. It's got a lot. In terms of other practicalities, it's fully insured. The maintenance is covered by the company as part of the deal. Staff are keen here in Sterile Services to be more active in taking stuff over there rather than just sitting in the car. They're making, as I say, 20 to 30 trips per day. The police are going to train the staff in cycling efficiency, so all the sort of odds and ends are covered. We think this is a really positive way of the Trust setting down a marker for more active travel and signal our intentions towards climate change for the Trust and for Cornwall. Thanks a lot. I'll take any questions.
That's great. Thanks, Bill. Might need to sort out the brakes a bit squeaky.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear us, Bill?
Hi. Yeah, I can hear you.
us
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Great.
I'll
So
just
we're
turn
going
the
to pass
camera
over to
around.
Tom.
How do I do that?
Not sure. There you go. We can see
There you
you.
are. Yes.
Back to us. I'm just going to pass on to Tom for the first question, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Yeah,
You're going to have to. I'm going to apologise for this, Bill. I struggled to hear you during that presentation, so I'm going to ask you some pretty fundamental
sorry.
questions. So the bike, what's it there to do? Who uses it? What does it replace?
So Sterile Services are currently driving over to the hospital from the unit here around 20 to 30 times a day. They're sitting down to do that. It's not active. They're not really enjoying it. The people who work here want to be more active. This is a way of enabling us to do so. The trike that we want is more stable than this. It can cover about about 20 to 30 miles on one charge. It can carry 300 litres volume of stuff and 200 kilos. So everything that Sterile Services take over there can fit into it in a way that is specified for Sterile Services. So it's not going to get run. It's got a seal that's perfectly adequate for transporting stuff over there. The staff are keen. It'll be a bit less. It'll be a bit less traffic on the roads within the trust. It'll be good to get people more active, and that's good for physical and mental health.
Yep. Can I ask another question, Adam?
Of course you can, Tom. Go for it.
And what does the £3,049 buy specifically? Is it just one bike?
It gets you one bike, 2 batteries, maintenance, a lock, helmet, a funky luminous jacket like I'm wearing here, and so everything to get up and go. So all the sort of maintenance and stuff is all covered. It's not going to break down next year or something like that, and there's going to be a problem. So there's no sort of significant sort of on costs and stuff to worry about down the line.
How long? Last question, promise, Adam. How long is the maintenance covered for then, in the insurance? Is it a 12-month contract?
How long is the maintenance covered for?
It's a 2-year cover.
2 years.
Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Amanda, do you have any questions for Bill?
Well, I did, but Tom asked them all.
Sorry.
But I do have, no, it's fine. One other question, I guess, Bill, would be just a really basic question of where do you store it? Where have they got? They've got somewhere to keep this safe overnight and secure?
Yeah. There's a site right outside. I mean, obviously, you know, it's a fully lit site. There's security cameras, so it is quite secure. It's got its own lock, and we've got a spare lock. There's also an additional site around the back where there's a proper bike lockup. So we've got adequate facilities to store it safely. I don't think it's going to get pinched.
And would the bike, would one single bike complete all those trips? Is it the same number of trips then, or is there a need for more than one?
Yeah, it's the majority of them. We think that one bike will cover the majority, but we'll see. I don't think we're going to. They obviously are going to other sites rather than just here. But certainly it should be adequate to cover most of the journeys within the trust here. Yeah. And certainly the capacity of the model that we want will take anything they've got. You know, it's big enough and it can take the weight. So, you know, it can do the job.
Thank you.
Great. No questions for me, actually, Bill. I thought it was really good. And as you mentioned before, the fact that we've highlighted our intentions as a trust to tackle sustainable travel and really embrace the green agenda, it's great. So thank you very much for the time and showing us the bike, or a similar bike.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, thanks, Bill.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Wow, fantastic. And how brave to take the pitch outside and on a bike. Amazing. So moving on now to our next pitch within this category, we are going to the Departments of Critical Care Medicine and Speech and Language. And we're going to be joined by Will English and Julie Wright for their pitch. Will,
Good afternoon. Sorry for the delay.
At the moment.
Our camera's on. It's been working just fine about 2 minutes ago. So I'm not sure whether that's a problem at your end or not.
Okay, don't worry, we'll show your slides and we can hear you perfectly, so take it away.
Great. Well, many thanks for giving us the opportunity to present our bid for the Den, and good afternoon to everyone. So as said, my name's Will English, and I'm sat here with Julie Wright, and we're representing the Departments of Critical Care and Speech and Language Therapy. And what we're applying for today is funding to help us introduce a technique called functional endoscopic evaluation of swallowing here at the Royal Cornwall Hospital. So could I have the second slide, please? So over the course of the next few minutes, what we aim to answer is 3 principal questions. Firstly, what would we like? Then when would we like it? And so why would we like it? And then when would we like it? Next slide, please. So regarding what we'd like, our bid is to ask for £10,000 to allow us to purchase a pharyngonase endoscope that will allow us to perform functional endoscopic evaluation of swallowing here at RCHT. The next slide, please. So now the slide should say why would we like it? So in short, the answer to this is basically that as a team on critical care and in speech and language, we feel that this is going to help us to realise the trust and our own goal of providing brilliant care to one and all. But in order to answer the question fully, I think we need to answer a couple of supplementary questions, and that is, what is FEES and what are the benefits of FEES? So FEES itself is a well-established technique. It refers to passage of a flexible nase endoscope, which is then used, inserted through the patient's nose, then used to visualise the larynx and surrounding anatomy during the assessment of swallowing and speech. We'd estimate that we'll carry out about 120 of these examinations per year to begin with, but that number may be set to increase. And I think very importantly, this is not just for the benefit of patients on critical care, but we also feel that it would benefit patients in neurology, stroke medicine, ENT surgery, and perhaps oncology as well. So what I'd now like to do is to hand over to my colleague Julie, who will take you through a FEES examination and then talk about the benefits. New slide, please.
So on this slide, you should be able to see an image that's taken from a FEES video. To orientate you to the anatomy, you can see on the camera has been passed through the nose to view the larynx. On the right hand side there is an NG tube, the yellow tube, that passes through into the esophagus. In the middle of the screen you should be able to see 2 slits. These are your vocal cords, through which you can just about see into the airway, into the dark area there. At the bottom of the screen is the epiglottis, and this, along with the vocal cords, will close over during a swallow to help protect the airway from material entering it. At the bottom of the screen you can also see some blue liquid, and in this image we see aspiration happen when the video plays, as the liquid traces around the left side of the screen to the structures at the top of the screen which control the vocal cords, and we see aspiration occurring with blue liquid entering the trachea at the top of the screen. If you can play the video, please. Hopefully you can see at the top of the screen the blue liquid is entering the airway. This patient does not cough, which is the natural response in order to protect your airway from any material entering it. So this is called silent aspiration, which is particularly risky for patients because it's difficult to detect at bedside. If you go on to the next slide, please. As you can see, we've listed a number of the benefits here of performing FEES for our patients. The picture on the right hand side shows John, one of our patients, with my colleague Lizzie. And if you can put yourself in his position, if we can have equipment to be able to more directly assess swallowing through the laryngeal assessments in this way, we will enable him to be able to speak and talk and communicate quicker, and also be able to eat and drink quicker, which is a lot of the concerns of patients and leads to a lot of frustration that patients experience whilst on critical care when they have tracheostomy, as John does, as the patient in the previous video did, and also for patients that have been extubated, who may have voice problems as well as swallowing problems as well. You can go on to the next slide, please.
So regarding when we'd like, hopefully, to be recipients of the charity bid, we're basically ready to introduce the service straight away. We've already taken steps with training with both Julie and Lizzie for this, and we've had the support of the ENT department for that. And we've also got support from both of our specialty directors and clinical directors with the further money that's required in order to buy the complete system rather than just the nasopharyngoscope. So many thanks for your time. I'm sorry that we can no longer see you at the moment, but we're very happy to take some questions.
Thank you very much, both. Really great presentation. So we saw the video and we saw it all there. So thanks very much for your time. Amanda, would you like to ask our colleagues any questions?
Yeah, thanks very much, and thanks for the presentation, Will and Julie. It was great. So again, I keep saying to people, I keep apologising for not being medical and not being in the NHS, so I have to ask some really basic questions. We're basically talking about funding a piece of kit. I understand that it's going to reduce frustrations for patients. What I just need to get in my head is at what point this would be an intervention for patients, and therefore what specific difference it makes, what it allows you to do that you're not doing at the moment.
So perhaps if I could start by answering that, Amanda. So the Royal College of Speech and Language Therapists have put out a position statement that have said that they feel that this is a fundamental part of the multidisciplinary assessment of anyone with swallowing problems. What we know is that of our critical care patients, about 70% of them might have issues with either communication or swallowing problems as a result of being attached to a ventilator and having a plastic tube in called an endotracheal tube, which goes through the voice box. And then, so as to when it could happen, so our patients, we'd like to assess them early to recognise potential problems early on and actually to allow us to treat previously unrecognised problems. So that's one area of benefit. The other area of benefit that we haven't touched on, but which is perhaps the single most important benefit, is the potential mortality reduction through use of this. And that if we can prevent this thing called aspiration pneumonia, which Julie was presenting as this abnormal concept where you no longer protect your windpipe, and things that normally don't end up in your lungs, such as saliva and oral fluids, actually end up in the lungs. If we can prevent the development of aspiration pneumonia, when we can prevent people spending as long a time on a mechanical ventilator and with tracheostomies in, there is a documented and research proven mortality benefit with that.
Thank you, that's really helpful. I nursed a mother with MND who lost the ability to swallow, so I really do get the difference that could make. Thank you.
And I think perhaps if I could just say one last thing, I think so I, together with a colleague, run our critical care follow-up clinic where we talk to the patients who've been through the unit, and a really consistent theme is the problems about not being able to take oral intake, about watching people around them maybe in non-COVID times having had a drink out of a water bottle and thinking that they'd like to do that, not being able to communicate, and some people just give up, I think, if they can't communicate because they get so frustrated. So we're hoping to redress some of those problems.
Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Tom, over to you.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. Will, you talked about the recommendation from the Royal College for trusts to use the FEES kit. So in that context, how standard is this kit at other similar sized acute trusts up and down the country, providing the level of service that we provide here?
So I think that it's not universally taken up, and I think it's an evolving area. So we've been really fortunate to work quite closely with Sarah Wallace, who's the chair of the Royal College of Speech and Language Therapy, who's spoken at our meeting, who we've both been in contact with. And so a number of trusts, so in the Southwest, I believe, and Julie might know better, I believe there's a FEES service in Plymouth.
Torbay has the best.
Sorry, Torbay and Bristol are our regional centres. And I think, so one of the potential benefits of getting in now, A, is that we'll be able to help more patients. The earlier we start it, the more people we'll be able to help. But also I can see that actually Julie and Lizzie could become people that speech and language therapists from other trusts would travel to Cornwall in non-COVID times and actually get training from them because they'll be ahead of the curve. At the moment, we've got an agreement to have online supervision and reporting of our scans, so that actually we can start doing training scans, which actually are going to be valuable real scans as well, because they'll be second reported by Sarah Wallace, who, as we said, is an expert in this field.
Okay, so we could actually start to develop a bit of a gold standard service, if you like, which others would come and be part of, rather than it being a bog standard bit of service provision. That was the bit I was trying to differentiate.
Yeah, I think it is.
Fees is considered one of the gold standard assessments for swallowing. Yeah.
Okay, and in the presentation, I think I saw that the total cost of the kit was $10,985. I think that was excluding VAT.
Yeah.
So the bit here is 10,000, obviously, which is the cap. How are you going to make up the shortfall?
So we've got agreement already from the trustee or the signatories of our charitable funds on critical care that they'll pay the remaining difference.
Okay. And what about maintenance of the kit?
So the total cost of the system includes a service contract. So I think the thing that I really don't want to mislead anyone about is that what we're asking for is the purchase of the actual endoscope part of the system. So on one of the slides, there's a picture of a computer stack system, which the endoscope was plugged into. So the actual whole system is more expensive, considerably more expensive than £10,000. And that's something that we've been in discussion with Adam already about, and with our specialty directors. But the cost of that involves it's a capital cost that includes a fully comprehensive service contract. And the system that we're going for is the sort of bespoke system for this, that's going to allow recording of images, playing back of images, sharing of files, and so it can be used for teaching as well as actual patient use as well.
Thank you.
That's great. No additional questions from me, so thank you very much for your presentation. And if you tune in 10 minutes or so, we'll let you know the answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you to Will and Julie there for a really informative pitch. So moving on to the last pitch within this group, we moved to child health, and we're joined by Debbie Charles and Dee Fox. They're bidding for £3,278 for some robotic technology. So over to you, Debbie and Dee.
Hi, I'm Dee from the schoolroom.
And I'm Debbie from the play specialist up on child health.
And here is our great love now, Ellie, who is Ellie, also an AV1 robot. The AV1 robot is designed to help children and young adults with long-term illness to reconnect with school and their social lives. It acts as their eyes and ears and voice, representing them wherever they cannot physically be, whilst at hospital or at home. And if you watch this video, it'll say it all, and then we'll pass you over to Ellie, who can also explain. Can we have the video, please?
Has Peter got our video?
While we wait, we could...
We've got slides. Is the video within the slides?
Peter we were trying to get a link to Peter. What we'll do is we'll go over to Ellie, and I'll see if I can work my magic another way. So I'll pass you over to Ellie.
Thank you, Ellie.
Hi, I was diagnosed with cancer at the beginning of 2020, and I have been receiving treatment in Treliske and Bristol. I was so excited when I was told about the robot. I was even more happy when I was told that I could have one. It is an amazing way to be included in activities like school, family events, and get-togethers, or even a trip you are unable to go on. It is a buzzing feeling as captain to be able to join my football team for a half-time team talk with the robot. I feel it's not like having an iPad or a laptop, as it has human features. You are able to make it look like yourself, so people genuinely feel you are there. I've had a really great experience so far, and it would be amazing to see people like me enjoy them as much as I have. Children with a low immune system would feel left out without a robot. But when you have a robot, you feel part of something again, and you're included. Overall, I feel it's a lovely opportunity for children to have if they want.
Ellie, can you give a quick demonstration of how your eyes change with your different emotions? And what else you can do? That's sad.
That's sad. This is happy. This is confused. And this is just okay. This would mean I'm tired in class or I can't do the work. And this is me putting my hand up so people know that I want to ask a question.
Well, thank you, Ellie. I think we have the video.
I'm going to try and do the video. I know this is not really the right way to do it, but we'll see if it works. So thank you for listening to that in a very odd format, actually, but hey-ho. Now, currently we have a large number of children at RCHG on cancer treatment. They range from 0 to 17 years. So isolation is very, very difficult for them. So how did these children feel before COVID? Well, they experienced worry and anxiety and fear. And this triggers isolation and mental health conditions, and that is the norm for them. So how is COVID-19 affecting these children now? Well, it's the same as before, but some of our children, and one particular patient, has been isolated since February and has only come here for treatment. So afterwards, what's going to be the difference after COVID-19? Nothing. The main thing is that every one of us now knows and understands what isolation can mean to us and to our family members and to everyday life. So we can change this for our cancer children by using Ellie the robot. Now each child can actually name them to whichever they want. They can dress them up. We've got a little dicky bow tie here for Ellie. So the robots will be helping their mental health, and they can take their iPad to Bristol. The robot can be at home, and the child can still interact with the family members even though they are hundreds of miles away. The robot could be taken to the beach, and the patient still in hospital can see the sea, look around, can actually take part in the family outing. It could go to the zoo, it could actually go to any family event that the child has. So COVID-19 and isolation has been no difference for these children, but actually these children need to be included in normal everyday family life.
They have been used mainly by school children in secondary and primary, but what we'd like to do through the hospital is introduce them more for the younger children, 3-4-year-olds who are very isolated from any social interaction.
Debbie and Dee, I'm going to have to ask you to finish your presentation there, I'm afraid, and then we're open to questions from the panel.
That's great. Thank you very much both for your presentation, and thank you, Ellie, as well, for playing a part. Really great. I was just going to ask a quick question around. So you're bidding for just under £3,300. Is that the cost per robot?
Well, there's a slight issue with our price. Initially, we were quoted for 1 year's use of the AV1, and that includes all your internet, 3G, 4G, because they can go anywhere, and all the technical support, because obviously there are some issues, and they do get broken, so the 3,000 would cover that for a year. However, there are better options because the robot has a life expectancy of 7 years. If you buy into that for the 7 years, you can pay less than £1,000 a year, so it would come to £6,500. There's also a 5-year plan, which is £5,800. So our initial bid, I'm sorry that it wasn't quite accurate, but there are degrees, there are options which we could discuss.
Okay. So, but it's basically, is it one robot for one person to use at a time, effectively?
Yes, one at a time, but you can then have that one person use it for the 2 months or the month that they're in Bristol, come back, and then it could change hands. So it's not just for one person, but only one at a time.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Amanda, would you like to ask any questions?
Yeah, thanks, Adam, and it follows on a little bit from what you were just talking about there, and thank you very much, everybody, including Ellie, for a great presentation and for innovation using the iPhone. So how long is a piece of string, but how many children and families, I suppose, then during the course of a year do you think would make use of this robot? Are you talking about a month at a time? Children and families, or?
It's hard. You could have one family who'd need it for 4 months, and then another family who would then use it for maybe a month, and then another, and then I think it would be in continual use, but each year would be different.
And my question then would be, sorry,
the robot will be used with a family throughout the whole year, but it will be different families. We can't determine how long a child could be in Bristol for. It could be a month, it could be 2 months, but we would be allocating the robot to the best possible family that needs that connection with family life, maybe hundreds of distance, miles away from each other.
The ideal would be to have one. Sorry, the ideal would be to have one robot per patient, but financially, I was just talking to Sharma, and she was like, "We need them now." So we're trying for one now.
Okay, thanks very much, Tom. Over to you.
Thank you. An amazing presentation, I think, is the first thing that I want to say. In the main, Amanda and Adam have asked the questions that I was going to ask. I guess the only question that remains for me is, until we have that complete program with many, many robots to distribute, how are we going to possibly do the really, really difficult task of deciding which particular family or patient at any one time this robot goes to if we choose to buy it?
Right, well, basically, I work on the children's unit and work very closely with the oncology outreach nurses, and they are the ones that actually would be able to tell me who is in Bristol or going to Bristol or would be in need of the robot. So I would take lead from the oncology outreach nurses that are based here in the hospital.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much again for your presentation. I think we're going to have some time to deliberate, and we shall get back to you very soon.
And if you don't mind, we're just going to pop off for a cup of coffee with Ellie. With Ellie. So see you in a minute. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you so much to Debbie and Dee. And as Adam said, we're now going to have a short break while our panel make their decision, and we'll be back in around 5 minutes. So tune back in to see who gets the money from this group. Thank you.
What do you think then? Any favourites?
I want to.
I want to.
We want to.
So thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kate Shields. I'm the Chief Executive of Royal Cornwall Hospitals. And I just want to say a massive thank you to all of those individuals, companies, businesses that have supported us during COVID. You've been amazing. We are really, really lucky to have you, and we will do everything we can to make sure that we continue to serve you in a way that's right, and that we repay you for all the kindness you've shown us. Thank you.
Royal Cornwall Hospitals Trust Charity have been the beneficiaries of huge levels of generosity during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our local community and supporters are making a difference every day, raising funds and donating to do more for our patients and our hospitals, providing additional equipment, enhancing environments, or giving the extras for our staff, not just during the COVID-19 pandemic, but throughout the year. And we just love how they do it. Taking to the dance floor in RCHT Charity's very own Come Dance With Us.
How lucky can one guy be? I kissed her and she kissed me.
Partying at Truro Cathedral in the very first event of its kind in this iconic Cornish location. Our own trust staff not afraid to get involved and get gunged to raise funds. And of course, our wonderful community raising funds for causes close to their hearts. Kieran walked circuits of his garden.
Kieran, you've raised £4,000. No way! Thank you.
Emily completed a back garden Ironman. Dina set to screen printing rainbows of hope.
As we all know, during the pandemic, our frontline workers put themselves at risk to protect our family, our friends and our loved ones. So it was important for me to help raise money for them. I wanted to do something rather than nothing. So I created the Rainbows of Hope. The Rainbows of Hope all came in editions, and everybody out there who bought one helped me to raise £3,000 for the Royal Cornwall Hospital. So a big thank you and big hugs to you. Thank you.
With all the donations to RCHT Charity, we strive to put the donations to the best possible use for the benefit of our patients, our staff and our volunteers.
So this is Isabel. She's 25 days old. Been a little bit of a monkey and a bit of a fighter so far, but she's doing well. And by the look of it, she's certainly enjoying this. So thank you obviously to everyone for raising the money to come and get it as well.
So our new baby Leos are really good for many, many reasons. Predominantly for families now, they are really, really accessible compared to our old ones. So the old ones used to go up and down as well, which is great for obviously parents' height and if they're sitting. You can now lift I'm just going to lift it up just for a second, lift this up for easy access for parents and if we're doing procedures, and automatically the heater will come on to make sure the baby stays nice and warm. And also these sides come down as well, so again, when we're doing procedures, we can get really close to the baby, but they're nice and safe and warm in here. If mummies are in a wheelchair and they can't actually get up to stand up near the incubator, it goes as low as right all the way down, and the tray can come out, so baby can come out to mummy, which is also different to what we've currently got. And also you've got easy, sort of really close little doors here that are really quiet, so we're trying to keep the noise down for the baby, things like that they've thought about, which are really easy to use. Talking about sound, it actually tells us up here if it's too noisy in the environment, so perhaps if there's procedures going on, there's lots of people in the room, it tells us on a guide, so we can actually say everyone be a bit quieter, because we're trying to mimic the baby still being in the womb. And also alongside that we also know the lighting as well, so they're kept covered all the time, obviously, unless we need to be looking at what's happening with them. And that probably is it in a nutshell, as in for us, which is much better than what we've been used to, so they are fantastic and we love having them.
Okay, hi. Well, meet our lovely new mannequin. So we put forward a presentation to secure some funding so we could purchase our own mannequin. Because it comes in his own suitcase, as you can see here, on wheels, it means that we can do training nights, days, any day of the week, because everyone can have access to the suitcase. So the beauty of this particular mannequin is that it has an airway head, which means that we can practice airway skills such as intubation, RSI, putting in airway adjuncts, bagging, as we demonstrated earlier, but we can also put on monitoring to deliver shocks, so we can be practicing CPR, ALS algorithms, BLS, things like that as well. So this mannequin allows us to practice key ED skills, which are life-saving and need to be delivered in a very timely manner, and are things that sometimes when shifts are particularly busy we don't get opportunity to practice, whereas now that we have this mannequin here on wheels, if we have a small window we can pull him out and go over skills that we might have just delivered in practice, and or if we've had a particular difficult scenarios and we want to do a debrief and we want to run through things in a more controlled, safe environment in which people can ask questions and practice things, then we can also do that with this mannequin too.
Many staff across the Trust have received funding to improve their staff rest areas or to give thanks to their team for their hard work.
Thank you! Thank you to everyone who's kindly donated us vouchers to have a hot drink on site. We really, really appreciate it.
Hello and welcome back. So I believe the panel have now deliberated and have come to their decision. So I'll pass over to the chair of the Dragons, Adam.
To everybody who's taken the time to put a bid in and present to us, all really excellent presentations and all really, really great ideas. So fantastic there. We'd really like to award the money to the critical care team and the fees, medical equipment. We thought this was really fitted in really well with the charity's objectives around above and beyond and a gold standard of care. So it's really great that we can use this improvement in the trust to actually improve care as well. So congratulations to you guys. And just wanted to mention to the child health team whether it's worth putting in some sort of wider campaign to bring in more robots. So if we could use lots of robots, the impacts could be greater. Okay, so well done to everybody, and well done especially to the critical care team. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Hello. So, well done to all the winners so far. So we now are going into the COVID-19 challenge category. So on the Dragons today we have Adam Wheeldon, Deputy Director of Finance, Amanda Stratford, CEO for Health Watch Cornwall, and also they're joined by Robin Jones, who's the Deputy Director for Operations. So we're going into our first bid, which is clinical oncology. So we've got Niall Moon, Liz Thomas, John McGrain, and they're going to talk to you about the virtual reality for holistic wellbeing and symptom control for oncology and palliative care patients. They're bidding for 5,230. Also in this category, we have clinical health, psychology, Isla McMacken, who's going to talk to you about creative wellbeing programme, and she's bidding for the sum of £10,000. And thirdly, we've got SITS, Brendan James and Andy Hayers, who would like to create a drop-in musical therapy space and a jamming workshop, and they're bidding for £10,000. So I'm going to hand you over now to Niall Moon, Liz Thomas and John McGrain. Thank you.
Hello there. First of all, I want to say thank you for inviting us here to picture a Dragon's Den. My name's Niall Moon. I'm one of the junior doctors here, Foundation Year 2s, and I'm here with John McGrain, one of the clinical oncology consultants, and Liz Thomas, who's the joint lead practitioner for palliative and end-of-life care. So we'd like to introduce today the Godrivi project, which is a virtual reality headset for palliative end-of-life care and oncology, with the main focus of improving pain, anxiety, symptoms and well-being. Next slide, please. I first of all want to talk a bit about the inspiration for this project, which was one of the patients I met when I was working on Lowen Ward, which was a gentleman called Charlie. So he was a 56-year-old man who came in with end-of-life care down to Lowen Ward due to his stomach cancer. And I got to know Charlie over the course of about a week, and the main thing he wanted to do was to get home, to be with his son, sit in his garden and be with his dog in his favourite chair. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get him home for a number of reasons, partly related to his clinical condition. We weren't able to get him out of here. And that really affected me, it affected the staff, and we were thinking surely there must be a way that we can help to facilitate a relatively simple request like that. He only could be with his wife due to the COVID-19 visiting restrictions, and his sons didn't want to pick which one of them got to see him as the other visitor. I previously worked a bit with some virtual reality as a medical student and thought that the technology is there for us to facilitate a relatively simple request like that, if not physically, then virtually. I'm going to hand over to Liz Thomas now to talk a bit about some other patients she's seen who she thinks could benefit from a headset like this. Liz.
Thank you, Niall. Hi, I'm Liz, Joint Lead Palliative and End-of-Life Care for the Trust. As we know, the majority of patients approaching end of life do die in the acute setting, and as a trust we've worked really hard over the last 2 years to improve our standards for patient and relative experience at the end of life. And during this recent pandemic, visiting restrictions have been extremely challenging for our patients, their loved ones and staff. Facilitating the wants and wishes of individuals that we aspire to do as a trust have been very difficult. One patient that I was seeing recently who had a new diagnosis likened his 10-day stay to being in a goldfish bowl with a lid on and no form of distraction for the distress that he was experiencing. And pre-COVID, we'd arranged a day trip from a ward to facilitate a trip to this lady's favourite beach and to bring her back. She's too unwell to go home. However, she became too unwell to travel, and having equipment such as this would have enabled that experience for her and able to achieve it virtually. And acknowledging it's the small acts of kindness that make the biggest difference to not only our patients and families, but also to the staff, and that it improves, their morale also in these very difficult times that we're all experiencing at the moment and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Next slide, please. I'd like to talk quickly about some of the more technical aspects of this. So it really is an immersive environment. It's got noise-cancelling headphones, a 360-degree immersion, which is far more powerful than just a simple video or something like that. It's safe, it's got relatively few side effects, it's research-driven, it complies to all the necessary inspection control. Next slide, please. But the most powerful thing I think about the potential for this project is Cornwall. Having lived and grown up in Cornwall, I went away to study and now I've come back to work here. I know just how much the Cornish love Cornwall and love being in Cornwall. And this kit comes with its own camera, which would have allowed us to go take Charlie to his garden. The company's even done weddings, key family events in the past, but what we'd like to do is create this Cornish library of places. We'd like to take the camera over to Godrivi, over to Perranporth, down to the Minack Theatre and just film these places that we know our Cornish population really love and really try and give them the chance to virtually visit one of these places we might not be able to physically allow them to at the end of life. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, I think this is a really sort of evidence-driven, innovative palliative care approach. We can be innovative instead of reactive in our palliative care. It's really patient-centred. We can particularly focus it to our Cornish population, and it's non-pharmacological with really very few side effects. And most importantly, it will improve the end-of-life care for our patients and the overall care we can provide, which is fundamentally why we're all here. Thank you very much for listening.
That's great. Thank you very much for your presentation. A lot of passion behind it, so that really came through. Thank you very much. Robin, as our new member of our panel, do you want to go with the first question?
Thanks, Adam. So, question for me is, how does it work? So the patient wears the headset and then they can immerse themselves in one of the virtual realities as we film, so like say the Minack Theatre. How does it work for the relatives back home? Is it like a web portal?
So that's a great question, and thanks very much. What we're hoping to do with this is distraction therapy, by this immersion and taking the patient out of that end-of-life hospital setting to distract them from their anxiety. We hope to see if that has an impact on pain and anxiety levels. As part of the bid for the £5,000, we're looking as well for a year's worth of the equipment to allow us to film, the backdrops that Niall mentioned. And with that, if we can, we may be able to expand that where family members could be in a position to film kind of personalised settings. We've talked about quite grandiose areas in Cornwall, but it might be as personal as a garden. From the family point of view, we're hoping that it will allow them to feed back into supporting their loved one while they're in hospital.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Robin. Amanda, over to you.
Thank you, and thank you for a fantastic presentation and really creative. And I love the idea of it being able to, show someone their favourite rose in their garden in bloom if they can't, be there for a keen gardener. Would it be only for use with cancer patients, or could this benefit other end-of-life patients as well?
Well, I'll let Niall take that call, but I would certainly see that this is, we're wanting to try it out with the cancer end-of-life patients, but because we're working with the end-of-life team, there would be no restriction that it would be limited to oncology.
Yeah, so just to reiterate John's point, that the research idea we've got is in more an oncology and end-of-life setting, but the kit would be held by the palliative care team. We've got Liz involved, and they're all keen to be involved. So anyone who they're seeing they think could benefit from this would be eligible to use it. So it really is open to the whole hospital if they're approaching end of life and think they could benefit from a distraction therapy.
Great, thank you.
If I could just put in, the reason for putting it into one setting is just to get a team used to using it rather than sending it around the hospital and people not knowing it. So we'd like to try and make sure that we're up to speed with using it, so it's a slick, kind of smooth process rather than people asking each other how to use it. But certainly that would be the only reason for starting in oncology.
Sorry.
Great. So my question's around what exactly we're going to be buying. You're looking at just over £5,000. You can get a VR headset, which are amazing, by the way. I can completely see the benefits of this. But we can pick those up, Oculus Quests, for sort of £400. What's the difference between a high street VR headset and something like this?
I'll let Niall take that question.
So I initially had the same idea, and unfortunately with Oculus, it's all owned by Facebook. So we were worried about the privacy concerns of bringing a sort of Facebook contracted item into a hospital. I've not read all the terms and conditions of a Facebook you have to sign up for, and I don't know I think there are some concerns about the privacy of that. With their headset, you've also got the infection control manner of it. So the Oculus, all of them, I've tried them as well, and they are amazing, but to clean them to a level that's needed for a hospital setting is more than can be done with most of the commercially available ones. So this one is specifically made for healthcare environments where it can be cleaned to a level that qualifies for infection prevention and control. So they're sort of two of the key things. They also provide all the support, all replacement over that year. And their parent company is actually a multimedia company. So some of the experiences they provide, they'll film with their sort of £70,000 virtual reality camera. So they provide all of these services and all the support and the training, and also helping with the research with all the iPad, all the kit that comes with it. So it's kind of the whole package more than just going and getting one off the shelf. We quite like to in the future, if it's taken up well and people enjoy it, they will definitely, we'd be keen to look into the future of getting something more, something we make ourselves. But I think at the moment they've got a very complete package which ticks all the boxes in terms of problems that would seem to come up with the commercially available kits.
That's great, thank you. Yeah, so I can completely see the benefits of this. Just by putting on a VR headset and transporting yourself to a place that you've been before makes you feel really different. So I can completely see how this could benefit people and links in really well with the COVID-19 challenge. So thank you very much for your bit. And if you tune in half an hour, we shall let you know the outcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Niall, Liz and John, for that presentation. So we're now going to go to clinical health psychology and speak to Isla McMakin. She'd like to talk to us about a creative wellbeing programme and is bidding for £10,000.
Hello both.
Hello. I'm really sorry, we've been experiencing some technical difficulties, so two members of our team are actually having to dial in via WhatsApp, so I'll be sharing their part with you via WhatsApp with me holding up my phone, so apologies, we've just had a frantic moment of trying to sort out technology, so yeah, apologies for that.
That's okay, can't be a bit of improvisation.
Yeah. Okay, so should we make a start?
Go for it, whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Hello, my name is Dr. Isla McMakin, so I'm health psychologist here at RCHT, and I'm joined today by Emily, Jane and Joe. So we're asking you for your investment of £10,000 to enable us to deliver an innovative intervention for our patients and staff here at RCHT. Your investment will fund 2 multi-skilled arts, health and wellbeing practitioners to deliver 22 days of holistic person-centred interventions for both adults and paediatric inpatients, as well as our staff. You'll be contributing to promoting the psychological wellbeing of patients and staff, which is particularly important at a time, as we know, when we're all facing experiences of uncertainty, vulnerability, loss, disconnection, many more feelings associated with this pandemic. We know that people living with long-term health conditions are 2 to 3 times more likely to develop psychological difficulties, which can in turn impact their engagement with their treatment, lead to increased length of hospital stay, and lead to subsequent hospital admissions. With your investment, we'll be equipping patients and staff with tools and strategies to help them thrive, to help them better self-manage their health and wellbeing needs within and beyond the hospital. And now I'll be handing over to Jane and Emily remotely via my phone, who'll give a little bit more of an explanation about how we'll be achieving this. So bear with me, I'll be holding up my phone to the screen and I hope you can see.
Hello, I'm Emily. Hello, I'm Jane. Our work spans across health, education and communities. Our approach is underpinned by trauma and mental health informed practice, in that it is responsive, respectful and relevant. We know that the very best outcomes are achieved when there are shared values and mutual goals, and where there is trust and consent from both staff and patients, our work can become meaningfully embedded. The arts and health activities for individuals and groups include breath and voice work, mindfulness, therapeutic sound, music, movement and singing for both staff and patients. The aims are to induce relaxation, to bring lightness and relief, and to provide self-management techniques. We'd like to give you a very brief taster experience and invite you to listen to the sounds, taking time to notice and observe how you feel. We sent the drag dragons, a straw and a feather to illustrate an example of the kinds of props that we might use in sessions. If you have these items to hand and you're in a COVID-secure space on your own with no mask, please take your feather. I'd like to invite you to make sure that your feet are flat on the floor and just give your toes a wiggle, making sure that your lower back is supported. Placing one hand on your tummy, I'd like to invite you to take a deep breath in through your nose as if you're smelling your favourite scent. And holding out your feather, just blowing gently for as long as is comfortable, keeping your focus on your feather. And on your next breath in, drawing your shoulders up towards your ears and dropping them down on a sigh. And we'll take a big stretch and a yawn, expanding our bodies as big as we can and wiggling your toes again in your shoes. And taking your straw, if you have your straw to hand. And I'd just like to invite you to have a gentle hum from a high note to a low note through your straw. And now I'm going to hand over to Jo to finish off our presentation. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jo Irwin and I'm a research associate in the R&D department. 20 years of research show the health benefits of music and singing. This includes positive impacts on the management of neurological conditions and reduction in pain and medication use in cancer and post-operative patients. Importantly, in this period of COVID, research shows that music improves well-being and reduces depression, anxiety and stress, both in hospital inpatients and hospital staff. A number of hospitals now have music practitioners delivering interventions on their adult and paediatric wards and report positive impacts. RCHT and Kaimaz Music have an established research partnership, and we too will be evaluating outcomes of patients and staff. In Cornwall, patients can access a wide range of online singing for health programmes through social prescribing. This means our patients will be able to continue practicing the skills in relaxation and self-management that they gain as part of this intervention. Our approach can positively impact on patients' health, support rehabilitation, and contribute to the well-being of our staff. Invest in us and invest in brilliant care, brilliant people, and brilliant outcomes. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thanks very much for that.
You're welcome.
And thank you very much for taking the time to put the presentation together and run through it. Really, really clear. Amanda, do you have any questions?
Yes, please. So I completely get and understand the enormous value that arts and music therapy have for people. I'm interested in why this is sitting in the COVID-19 challenge category, I guess. I just need to understand that a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that one. So, as I said, I'm Isla, clinical health psychologist here, and I suppose we spoke to it a little bit in the presentation there, but we know, for all of us really, speaking on behalf of many of us, that we're all experiencing feelings of disconnection, feelings of uncertainty, vulnerability associated with this pandemic, and even more so for our patients and staff in the hospital who are separated from loved ones, who haven't got that external source of support to help promote their psychological well-being. And of course this, in turn, because they haven't got visitors, there's a greater impact and burden upon our staff members who are having to meet those emotional needs. So it's all very kind of interconnected in the sense that, poor psychological well-being can impact the patient's engagement in treatment, increased length of stay, and so on and so forth, remain in that disconnected, uncertain place.
Okay, thank you. And my one other question was, I think if I understood correctly, you were talking about this providing, was it 22 days of therapy? How many people would that affect, or how many lives would that impact on?
Yeah, Emily, do you want to take that one?
Yes, we were talking about this earlier. Hello there. I'm so sorry we couldn't join you on Teams. I think it's because we're external to the NHS. So I suspect that some of this intervention will be short interventions with people, perhaps bedside interventions, and some of it will be maybe group sessions, perhaps with groups of staff or groups of patients. So it will vary, and some of the interventions might be quite short and some might be quite long. But we were estimating that we could probably work with maybe 10 or 12 people per day, and some of those people we may only see once, and some of them we may see several times.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Robin, over to you.
Thank you, Adam. First of all, well done, team, for a great interactive presentation and getting us involved as well, and overcoming your technical challenges with WhatsApp as well. So I know that you've apologised for not being able to join the Teams call, but excellent that you got around it with WhatsApp. So thank you. My question really is, how do you see this working in our COVID-restricted environments in terms of the amount of interaction that can happen with the patients and with our staff?
Emily, do you want to speak to that one? I'm happy to chip in as required, but I'll hand over to you if you want to.
Yeah, sure, of course. Jane and myself have actually been delivering during this whole lockdown, and we've been delivering sound, mindfulness and singing sessions online because obviously singing has been deemed to be one of the things that can be quite significant in terms of spreading COVID. So I think a lot of the activities we would be envisaging having to do with masks on, and certainly having to do at distance. And certainly in terms of group work, it will be probably a while before we're doing that. And we've already got honorary contracts with the NHS, but we need to go through our induction process, and we expect through that we would be inducted to the policies of the hospital regarding COVID, and I'm sure that it will require us to wear full PPE and abide by all the restrictions that need to be in place, but sort of keeping a distance from people, but also being able to form a connection, because our work is very much about forming connections with people. But through our experience, we know that we can do that even if we've got these barriers in place and these restrictions in place. We feel that we can still make that connection with people.
Absolutely, and I'll just add to that, Emily. So, a lot of us have had to adapt our working pattern and work from home. And as a psychologist, we face the same challenges and have been able to really successfully still deliver psychological wellbeing interventions remotely. So I would envisage if it was a case where actually it just wasn't feasible on the ward, then certainly we've got the technology available to us to be able to offer this in an interactive virtual platform. And having experienced it personally and as a department, it's amazing, really kind of amazing. I'm sure some of you will have experienced this too, but the connection that you can still establish virtually, even though you're not in the same room, actually you can still build a really deep and meaningful connection with others, even though it's virtually. So I think we do have options available to us should it become too challenging to go onto the wards themselves.
That's really helpful. Thank you very much. That's useful to know.
Okay, no additional questions from me. So thank you again for taking your time, and we'll let everybody know the outcome in probably about 10 or 15 minutes. So nice to meet you all.
Thank you for your patience with the technology. Apologies again.
No problem at all. It's out fine.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you, Isla, and your team. So we're now moving on to SITS, the last one in the Dragon's Den. So Brendan James and Andy Hayers, they'd like to talk to us about a drop-in musical therapy space, a jamming workshop, and they're bidding for £10,000. Over to you, Andy and Brendan.
Hi everybody, my name's Andy Hayers, and I'd like to introduce Brendan James, who we both work for Cornwall IT Services. And we are going to talk to you today about something called Mindful of Music. Our other name is the Dodgy Jammers, so that's what we go by. Can we have the first? Is our slide presentation up on the screen? We've got the presentation.
Yeah, we've got a picture of a slide at the moment, which is good.
Yes, I do apologise for that. Normally we say next slide, and this appears, so I don't know how that slipped into the presentation. So next slide, please. Okay, so the background to this is basically we're going for sort of the COVID angle. But this is something that's going to live a lot longer than COVID now that we've got a vaccine. And basically there's an emerging evidence that the outbreak is negatively affecting the mental health and well-being of the NHS staff. So lots of NHS staff, especially our frontline workers, have experienced a significant change in the way that they're working, having to put PPE on day in and day out and doing long shifts and just being exhausted. This is also coupled with an increase in the likes of some of the mental health illnesses that you get with this. One of the main reasons that we're pitching for this is that the latest data shows that anxiety, stress and other kind of psychiatric illnesses accounted for about 28.3% of sick leave within the NHS, and that was just for one of the main months when the pandemic was at its highest. 28.3%, that's over a quarter of staff that were off sick were due to stress, and a lot of it was related to the COVID situation and some of the stress that staff were under. Next slide, please. Can't actually see the slides. That's it. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so our background to this is that for some time now, music therapy has been something that's been key in the treatment of patients with learning difficulties, patients recovering from strokes, and it just allows people to express themselves more creatively and develop social and communication skills. And our original plan with this presentation was to walk through the lift doors and be playing like two minstrels, and we were hoping to get your feet tapping and maybe forget some of the stresses that you all do in the important roles that you have within the trust. Some of the stresses are caused by SIT staff like Brendan and myself, and it is such a fantastic music. It's such a fantastic way to sort of unwind. And again, I'm not going to bore you and go through the bullet points on my slide, but those are just some of the benefits of using music therapy. So yes, it's currently used in most trusts for patients. Next slide, please. So traditionally, as I mentioned, it's been confined to patients. If you could just click again. And click again, please. So both of us would very much like to turn that on its head. Next slide, please. So this is the two of us. We're both budding musicians. Brendan's a little bit more advanced down the line than I am. I'm a very amateur guitarist. Brendan plays in a band. I used to be in a band years ago in the 80s. Weren't very good. And if you could just click again. So you can see now that it's building up an image of musicians. These are all musicians from the trust. I had absolutely hundreds and hundreds of photos sent to me from members of staff at RCH of them playing instruments. I just couldn't include them in this one slide. One of the main things is that there's a large proportion of the staff within this trust that enjoy playing music, listening to music, being involved in choirs. We've actually got a bigger horn section than Earth, Wind and Fire. So our pitch is to provide a safe space plus equipment for staff. And I'm going to hand you over to Brendan now just to elaborate on what we require. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. So if we can move on 4 slides, please, Pete. We can see all of these in together. So we're going to be looking for a room in an ideal location, and that would be somewhere central to the Royal Cornwall Hospital site. So we wouldn't be looking at one of the outlying buildings like Kedlow, for example. We're going to be looking to get that room refurbished. We're going to need some refurbishment work to make a clean, serene environment for people to get away from the stresses and strains of work. a collection of musical instruments. There's not going to be much in the way of music therapy unless we've got some instruments in there, and we want those to be a collection of instruments that are going to be suitable for people who are both experienced and inexperienced with playing. And then of course investment from our brilliant dragons. So we are asking for the full £10,000 for this, but we think it's going to be very much worth it. Next slide, please. So a little bit more detail then about the location. So it would be on the Royal Cornwall Hospital site. Again, just to reiterate, we would want it somewhere nice and central, so not somewhere out of the way, somewhere familiar and accessible to staff. Now, a bit of early reconnaissance has highlighted some promising spaces in the basement of Tower Block, but Andy and I don't necessarily have the clout to lay claim to those. So not only are we asking for £10,000 today, we're asking for the help of our brilliant influential dragons to maybe support us in our claim for a space. Next slide, please. A little bit of detail on costs. So we're asking for £10,000, and it's broken down into a quotation we received from estates for £6,600 for refurbishment works, and then the remainder £3,400 would be used on musical instruments and equipment. I have got some more detail on the breakdown of those if anybody wanted to see them. Next slide, please. So who is this space going to be for? So the aim is for a space that everybody can feel comfortable in, regardless of whether they're an experienced musician or a first-timer who wants to try something just to get away from it all, perhaps. And as I said earlier, ooh, we're out of time. Please support our pitch, thank you.
It's okay. I think we get the gist of it. So thank you very much, guys, for your presentation. Firstly, I was going to say, you mentioned about during the whole COVID pandemic how much stress SITs have caused. Actually, I'd like to say thank you very much for everything that you do in SITs. I mean, you guys do an amazing job in SITs. The amount of additional support that people have needed to work from home. So yeah, hats off. Thank you very much. No stress caused at all. Just a load of help.
It's very gratefully received. Thank you.
My pleasure. Robin, do you want to go first?
So I completely echo your point, Adam. Yes, thank you to the whole SITS team. Massive amounts of work have been undertaken through the COVID. I don't think you've added to the stress, you've had to take the stress away. But that said, you want to take some more stress away, and that's great to hear, and a really energetic pitch, so thank you. My question really is that you talk about wanting a central space and it being accessible for all, and you mentioned the Royal Cornwall site. How do you envisage this working for West Cornwall and St Michael's?
I think we have to settle on a single space, clearly, because obviously that's where the money is going to be best spent, and we do have a larger volume of staff working at Royal Cornwall Hospital, not just now, but as we kind of discussed into the future as well, when we do have more people back on site. I think I would like to explore ways to make staff on all our sites aware that it is a space available for them as well. So whilst it may not be physically located in their place of work, it's for them as much as it is for anybody that works at Royal Cornwall Hospital.
I just want to echo that. One of the other things that we would look to be exploring is to also push this out to the virtual world, because obviously, and some of us in SITS are involved in this, that there may be a permanent move to be working at home. And it can be just as stressful working at home, as I found out today. And I think to have use your break to sort of chill out and meet new musicians online is another option that we'd like to include in, but that would come at a later date.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Robin. Amanda, do you have any questions?
I think you covered what the 10,000 was going to cover really effectively, and I guess one question would be, where do you see this fitting in? So excluding people who are working from home, where do you see this fitting in someone's day? When do you see them accessing this room that you have yet to designate?
I think there's sort of quite a few times. I mean, obviously, you could think about lunch breaks. It might be something somebody might want to do on a lunch break. But I actually think sort of before, potentially, and or after work might be another time that people might want to access it. I think one of the things that Andy and I often thought about was that, especially when more people were working on site, but you would go to work and you would work on site, and clearly people are going to have lots of positive experiences at work, but lots of stresses and strains that we've identified come with that as well. And then people may be able to go home, and some people get the opportunity to use equipment and do this kind of thing at home, and that alleviates stress for them. We think there's a lot of value in being able to provide some of that in the workspace as well. So even if it's before work or after work, so somebody might be physically on site a little bit longer, just the act of doing something like this, musical and positive, in the workspace, I think is going to have longer term benefits for people.
And how would you promote its availability to people?
Luckily, we've got lots of avenues that we can use. So we've got the staff Facebook page, which I know is highly used. This whole day, this fantastic day of Den Pitches, is an RCHT charity endeavour. So I'm certain they'd be prepared to share it through their Twitter page. Andy and I have got our personal Facebook and Twitter pages, and I think we'd like to encourage staff to do the same, wouldn't we, Andy? To kind of share what they're doing there.
Yeah, I think one of the best things that I got out of doing the 4 Being Brilliant sessions was actually meeting people that I've worked for this trust for 39 years, and there are people that have worked here for as long as me that I hadn't met, and I met them on the Being Brilliant sessions. And this is kind of an extension of that, in that we'd like to say, well, actually we're interested in music, and then you can meet somebody that you've never worked with, might be, for me, somebody that's on a ward somewhere, and we kind of hit it off musically. And this is what this is all about, sort of networking and getting to know people that work in the same organisation as we do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Yeah, so I play the guitar myself, so I completely understand the benefits of, or the links between music and mental health, really, and just be able to de-stress and switch off from the world, so I completely understand that. My question was really about how it would run practically. So you got a room, find a room for you, great. Stick a load of guitars in for me to play with. That sounds fantastic. How do you make sure I don't take one of the guitars home?
So we were looking at maybe having swipe card access as part of the access to the room, which would then obviously you'd be able to monitor who was going in and who was coming out at any one time. The other thing that we can do, because we're IT bods, we can use the booking process to maybe set it up, and people can arrange to meet. So you might have the bongo club in the afternoon and the guitar club in the morning, or whatever, during their break time. So we would set up a sort of diary system, because obviously with the COVID situation as it is in the moment, we'd have to limit the amount of people going in there at any one given time. But once we're all vaccinated and in the clear in the spring and the summer of next year, then we could sort of ease up a little bit on that. Okay,
that's great. Well, thank you very much again for your presentation, putting the bid in and answering our questions. And I think we're going to deliberate for a few minutes and then get back to everybody very soon.
Lovely. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Over to you, Bev. Last one for us, Amanda.
Our vision at the Royal Cornwall Hospitals Trust is to provide brilliant care to one and all. But how do we know when that vision has been achieved? The fact is, we all know that for most things there is always room for improvement, and therefore change is required to achieve it. So even if we think we are providing brilliant care, there are always adjustments that can be made to continually improve and achieve our ultimate goal of better patient outcomes and experiences. Whether that might be tackling the high priority complex issues demanding the attention of organisational leads, or just making tweaks to a process that results in improvements to a service or job role. As healthcare providers and clinicians, we would expect and encourage our patients to be proactive in improving their lives. So why wouldn't we, as a healthcare provider, have that same expectation of ourselves? At the Royal Cornwall Hospitals Trust, we do. And everyone has a role to play, from staff to patients and their families. So what is quality improvement, or QI, as it is known in healthcare? It is the continuous process of looking at how we as individuals, as teams, and as an organisation could do things better, safer, and more effectively and efficiently to bring about brilliant improvements for the care of our patients. So, what is the QI Hub?
Well, the aim of the QI Hub is to build QI quality improvement capability in the Trust through support and training and the use of internationally approved QI methodology.
So what does it mean for me? So the QI Hub is a place where staff members can come and learn QI tools and techniques. They can discuss and gain support for their ideas from other people that are already undertaking projects, and we can give them the tools and the techniques to deliver the project for themselves.
So by giving everyone the ability to do QI, and by giving access to resources to support them, that will in turn support the care groups to deliver sustainable improvements, which in turn support the Trust in delivering large-scale organisational improvements, all of which are working towards improving patient outcomes and experience.
So welcome back to the COVID-19 challenge category. I believe the Dragons have now made a decision, so I'm going to hand over to the chair of the Dragons, which is Adam Wheeldon. Thank you, Adam.
We've been doing this very quickly just to make sure we catch up some time. Thank you very much to everybody for putting your bids in for the whole of the session, and certainly this COVID-19 challenge category. All really great bids, presented really well, and really interesting to listen to. So thanks very much for that. We would really like to support the clinical oncology team with their virtual reality for holistic well-being, and we thought it was a great presentation. It was really well thought through. We can get started straight away on it seems, and it links really well in with the COVID challenge category. So congratulations to the team, and thank you very much for the bid. Just wanted to mention in relation to the clinical health psychology team to, if you get in touch with Karen Morrish, we might be able to find an alternative way to support you. And we all liked the creative idea around the jamming workshop, maybe something for the health and well-being building that we will hopefully build one day in the future. So again, thanks very much for all of your ideas, and congratulations to Niall and his colleagues. Well done.
Wow, thank you very much. And so that brings us to the end of the Den at RCHT 2020. So just to really quickly round up the event, to say a few thank yous. We obviously need to thank our wonderful panel of dragons, Adam and Amanda, particularly for being there throughout the whole afternoon. I know it's quite draining being there all afternoon, so thank you so much. And Robin for joining us in the last category, also to our dragons that joined us throughout the afternoon. So thank you so much for your support. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to Pete and Hannah for their technical support. What they've had to do has been amazing, so we honestly could not do it at all without their help in these times. So thank you to Pete and Hannah. And also thank you to the QI team, Bev Wills, the charity team for all of their help with running the event. And of course to all of those who applied, so those that applied at the first stage that were shortlisted, and to everybody that pitched. As I said at the beginning, this puts many of our colleagues out of their comfort zone, so we really appreciate the time taken to put your pitches together. And well done to all of those who have been successful. Finally, just to say thank you for the support for our charity. So that's enabled us to make these things happen following on from this event. And also to supporters of NHS Charities Together, who I mentioned before, have provided the funding for the COVID-19 challenge section. So thank you so much. And we hope to see you next year. We hope to see you back in the room next year. But thank you so much for this year's event.
Karen, can I say something before we close, please?
Of course.
So firstly, I'd just thank you for your involvement in this. I know you put a lot of effort into it, so thank you. I just wanted to say to anybody who's watching, really, that on behalf of the Charitable Funds Subcommittee, this isn't the only time that you get to bid for charitable funds. As a charity, we have over £2 million of funds which are available, and those funds are spread across the trust. So if you've got a really good idea about how basically that we can benefit our patients and staff and go above and beyond what we're able to do, please talk in your teams as to find out which funds are available, and hopefully we can support a lot more of these really, really great ideas throughout the year, as well as at this time of the year. So thank you very much, and please go and track those funds down.